Oh. Oh. Have it. Have it. Oh, have it. Oh, hello. So, hang on. Oh. Didn't realise we'd gone live. Hey everyone, hello, it's Fox from Model Making Guru here. That joke was terrible. Sorry, that was really poorly executed. I bet you couldn't even see the screen there. Never mind. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. It is Sunday, therefore that means it is, of course, Warhammer Sunday. Giorgio Piva has just subscribed. Welcome, Giorgio. Thank you for subscribing. Yes, welcome along, everyone. If you've never seen one of these before, it's that time on Sunday afternoon when I clear the little eyelashes off my desk. Yes, there's one. When I crack on with my Warhammer Conquest part work build-up. I'm working my way through all 8 billion issues of the Warhammer Conquest part work, and I'm slowly building up all the minis so that once I've got them all built, I can strip the ones I've part painted, start from scratch, start again, and get them all painted properly and video the paint jobs for you all so I can show you how I paint them. And at the moment, we're just spending every Sunday that I'm free, able to just get built up ready, because it's a lot easier to have these in a couple of travel cases than it is to have lots of sprues and bits and magazines lying around. So welcome, welcome, welcome. As always, this is typical one of my live streams. Hopefully you can see and hear me okay. I've got a burp kind of stuck halfway down my throat, and I know it's there. It's going to come out at once. So I apologise now in advance. It's one of those burps that kind of sits there for 20 minutes and decides what he wants to do. And at the minute, I can't tell, so it may just suddenly explode outwards. So I do apologise if I suddenly burp my lungs up on the live on the telly. I don't know. Yes, as I say, it's one of my live streams where I'm going to sit and do this work. As always, the main focus of this stream is not really having me on your telly in the background. You're not really going to sit there watching me shave seam and mould lines off little minis. It's more just a case of you guys hanging out and chat with each other and having a good time. In this tough and challenging time, hanging out with your mates online is always a good idea. So if you are watching this, do come and join in the live chat. There's the archive of the chat there, which is slightly broken. It falls out. Let me just refresh it. Hang on. See if I can refresh it. Refresh some buttons. Refresh. Cache of current page. There we go. That might refresh the chat in a few moments. It kind of falls. Streamlabs kind of falls over like that. But there should be the live chat in there. But if you want to join in the actual live chat, it's on the YouTube page where this is being watched. If you're watching this embedded, just click on the YouTube icon in the bottom right hand corner down here somewhere of the video player, or if you want to, you can. If you're on a mobile device, you can scroll down underneath the video. You might see the live chat down there. But do join in. It's always awesome to join in. That's the whole point of these shows, is just to hang out. Now, as always, before we get going, if somebody can just put something in chat there so I can see if it's working. As always, before we get going, I do some shout outs to the people that make all my content possible. First and foremost, my patrons and channel members. My patrons at patreon.com/modelmakingguru. The address is there. These are the people that pay my wages, and they give me my income. This is how I can do this for a living, and they make it possible for me to do this. So massive thank you to my patrons, and also now to my YouTube channel members, who also do the same thing but through YouTube. It's the join button underneath all of my videos, or the join button on my homepage, my YouTube homepage. If you click on that, you can join and become a member, and again support this channel, and it helps keep the lights on, put food on my table, and everything else, keeps me in supply. So massive thank you to them, and also to my two corporate supporters, emodels.co.uk and goblingaming.co.uk. Links to both of them in the description below this video. Your one-stop shop locations for traditional model making and for tabletop model making and supplies. Do check them out in the description below the video, and use the links in there, because those links tell them that I sent you, and I get a little bit of income from that. It doesn't cost you anything, so check those out. But yes, as always, I'm going to be working away. I've got the chat here in front of me, as you can see, as always. So if you want to get my attention, I'm going to be focusing on building stuff, but I will try and keep up with the chat. If you want to catch my attention, as always, put your comment in capital letters so I have a chance to see it. Or if you want to, you can do a super chat, which is the little dollar symbol at the bottom of the chat window. If you click on that, you can then do a super chat, which puts your comment in a coloured box and makes an animation up here somewhere, and I have no way to miss it then. But if not, then just make sure to put your comment in capital letters so I have a chance it stands out in the chat. Now, what are we up to today? We'll have a quick look at chat first and see who's in, then we'll crack on. So far, we have, rushing through it very quickly, we have Pascal, of course, was here at about 10:30 this morning, but never mind. Quanoman, Model Making Mayhem, Nim Cinderin is in. We have Nim Cinderin is a dice dragon. She seems to like collecting dice. She's got all the dice in the world. I understand this. I got the dice I got with this Warhammer Conquest set are so nice. I'm thinking I want more of those. They look like little jelly cubes. They're quite pleasant. I might have to get some more off eBay just because they're nice. We have Chris at Gross Models is in but out because he's doing some Terminator stuff, but he'll be in and out. Skullfish is in. Welcome to both of you. More Draka, hello, welcome. We have Frankie Goes to Hobby Orders in. Guten Abend, Frankie. We have got William Rayborn is in. Welcome, William. Bitsbox Builders, or Steve Mundy, as we normally call him. Bitsbox Builder is in. Look at that. If you're wondering how they've got the green thing next to the name, by the way, or the little symbols and the custom foxy head icons, that's because they're channel members. You can become a member too. We have Tim Kelly is in. Welcome, Tim. He says afternoon. Welcome, Tim. Scaly Models Dad, or I'll start that again. Dad over at Scaly Models. Every time I look up to the microphone, I can see a Big Jet TV sticker that Dad sent me. So thank you for that, Dad. Big Jet TV. Welcome, Dad. It wouldn't be a Fox stream if chat didn't break. Yes, this is part of Streamlabs. It's an overlay that just takes the chat from YouTube, and it seems to be the thing with Streamlabs. I use Streamlabs OBS, and it's a wonderful piece of software. But it tends to sort of fall over quite regularly. Now, the lucky thing is, when it falls over, if there's a stream ongoing, if it does fall over, the stream carries on. It doesn't affect the stream at all. But the software just stops. And like my buttons stop working and the volume meters stop updating and the chat stops. But then after a little while, it just randomly starts again. It's really weird. But the main thing is the stream keeps going. So if it wants to fall over every now and then and just the chat doesn't work, I don't care. But yes, so this is really for people who are just watching it later on, so they know who I'm talking to and what I'm responding to. But if you want to join the live chat, do come and join the live chat. Don't just sit and watch. Come and join the live chat and hang out. Interzone 88 is in. G'day, Interzone. Lol Fox, 2 more hours till we say Guten Abend. Okay, Guten Morgen. What? Hang on, it's 3. It's evening, isn't it? Yes. Hang on, no, I thought Guten Abend was good afternoon. Can't still be good morning, can it? Guten Morgen, mein Freund. Can't possibly. Right, and I think we're up to date with who's in the chat there. So welcome to all of you so far. Let's have a look. 26 people watching, but like 12 people in chat. So do come and join the chat. Come and join the chat. Now, it's still Guten Tag, says Frankie. Oh, so just good day. Oh, Guten Tag, mein Freund. I don't know much German. What German I learnt from Medal of Honor games. I'm not too ashamed to admit that. I'm just going to put my little rug under my feet because I forgot to do that. I have a little fluffy noodle rug that I put under my feet that keeps my feet nice and comfy on the hard floor. So let me just put that down. Right, so last week we are working on, like I said, we're working through the Warhammer Conquest, and we're up to issue 63, which is more Death Guard. They're more Restless Dead, and we've built 1 Plague Marine, and we built 4 Poxwalkers. Yes, we built all that last time in 1 episode. I know, it's not normal, is it? So I've got like 6 more to build now. These are all the bases. Got 6 more Poxwalkers to build, so we'll see how many of these we can get built today. Yes, Nim talking about her dice collection. I have to say, like I said a minute ago, those dice that come with this, can I find them? Let me see if I can find them easily for you. Hang on, is that? No, it's set 4. Let me see if it's in set 1. Let me have a look. I've got my premium war gear set. The dice in this is so nice that I want to get more, and just purely because, 100% because, they look like jelly cubes. They look like cubes of jelly. They're just fantastic. So they're like slightly transparent, and I really like them. So I'm gonna have to go on eBay and buy them. You get I think you get red, green, blue, and yellow. You get 1 set of each. So I've only got that many, and some little white ones I got from somewhere. So I've only got that many. So I need to go on eBay and get myself a load of extra bags of these dice. Unless you can get them straight from Hachette, that might be quite nice. Because I'd love to have like 100 of these dice, and then one day I might actually play the game. You never know. I might actually play the game. Prinhound Dar Fox says Bitsbox Build, just to prove it's still me. Probably come. That's all I know in Welsh. Yaki Dar, obviously, and Llath. I know the word Llath and ambulance. Ambulance is the best Welsh word. Yes. Lol, puny dice, says Nim. I know they're not D20s, and they're not D&D dice. They're just regular dice. Not nach Mittag then, Frankie. Let's have a look. Nim Cinderin is already asking the question that Dad hasn't asked yet. Dad? Talks it out. Sort it out, Dad. What's the question, Dad? Dad, what's the question, Dad? Dad. Unless you have asked it, in which case, oh, he's already asked it. I apologise. I take it back. I've taken it back. What's on your bench and what's in your belly? What you're working on, what you're building on. It could be a model, could be a drawing, you could be putting shelves up, you could be fixing the toilet for the missus. Doesn't really matter. What you're working on, what you're building, and what's in your belly. What you're having for your dinner, or what have you had for your dinner? Let's have a look. Candy Grab from Mongo is in. Welcome, Candy. Bitsbox Builder says bench will be eggy bread and bacon. Oh yes, eggy bread and bacon. Eggy bread and bacon. Oh, my entire voice broke then with the thought of eggy bread and bacon. Bitsbox Builder saying eggy bread and bacon. That's too many complicated words to say all in the same sentence. You need to work on that one. Bench is research, says Bitsbox Builder, but he doesn't explain the research, so you need to explain that to us. Mordraka says Bench Crusade Journal for Warhammer, belly, cottage pie and coffee. Wayne Hayward's in. Welcome, Wayne. Let's have a look. What else got? Nim says Bench D&D or D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Stop typing things in chat that are hard to pronounce, like Bitsbox Builder, Bacon, Belly, Bench, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. It's horrible to say Dungeons and you can't. There's no way to not trip up over it. But if you say D&D, it works, but I don't know. D&D, drawing my rogue and bard, inked now and colouring now. Belly, coffee. As for lunch, I don't know yet. Explain to me how you're inking and colouring. What are you inking and colouring with? Are you using ink and brush or pens, and what are you colouring with? Do tell me, I want to know. Or is it digital? I find that fascinating. I used to be a brush and ink outline and watercolour colouring when I was doing my comic book art type stuff. Model Maker Mayhem said he wasn't sure if he was going to make the stream today because of work, but gladly he is here. Haribo dice, it may be the next trend, says Frankie. Oh, yeah. Does that mean when it's a bad roll, you get to eat them? roll a D1 for flop sweat and eating dice. I have asked it. Yes, I do apologise, Dad. I had to scroll up. Frankie explains that it's afternoon, but we don't say good afternoon in German. Why don't you say good afternoon in German? So you just say good day until it's evening, and then you say good evening. Is this just German efficiency? Trimming down the number of things that need to say, which is kind of ironic, really. Have a look. Model Maker Mayhem says belly will be venison, grill steaks, mashed potatoes, roasted veggies. Bench is nothing, for I am feeble. Yes, Bitsbox Builder says all the bees. Now I'm thinking about venison grill steaks. We ordered a load of stuff from because obviously everything's locked down right now. We have been for quite a while, so we ordered some stuff in, and Mama Fox ordered some place we've never ordered from before. It's like they produce game meat, like wild boar and venison, all this kind of stuff. And she ordered a mixture of wild boar things and venison things. And the venison, it was basically wild boar burgers and sausages, and venison burgers and sausages, and some diced cubed wild boar to make a slow cook. And I've got to tell you, I don't know if it's just the wild boar and the venison, or if it's just this one place. They all kind of tasted really bland. Like, we made a slow cook yesterday with, like, the chunks of wild boar and loads of veggies and stuff, and it just didn't really have any. It just tasted like cheap beef. And the venison, no flavour at all. I'm like, wow, this is not... The only thing they did make, they made these little loaves. They called it a man loaf. I think it was called a man loaf. It was like a little saurine-sized block of bread, apparently, with wild boar in it, chunks of wild boar in the bread. Like raisins, but made of wild boar. I thought, I love a bit of that. It was rock hard, and it tasted like, imagine a saurine malt loaf, but if it was rock hard and not squidgy. And it tasted like, the only way I can explain it is it tasted like when brown bread goes off and goes really sour tasting. It tasted like that. It was not pleasant. I'm not very impressed with this place we got all the game stuff from. Pascal Leverse, welcome Pascal, says the mega size RX-782 and some cinnamon rolls. Ooh. I like that RX-782. It's a great big thing. Dead simple to build, but just don't do any thin paint washes. Nim says it's digital with my tablet and GIMP, aka the free Photoshop. I use a black outline. Awesome. I haven't done any proper drawing on paper for a long time, like in any great amount, because I've been doing digital art for many, many years, and that's all Photoshop when I do mine. I used to start off using a program called Painter Classic on the PC, which reproduced watercolours and inks and stuff. And I thought it was the best thing in the world, and Photoshop was nonsense. It was just for, combining pictures and things. And then after a few years, I had to use Photoshop, and I was like, oh, actually, I can do really good artwork in Photoshop. I like it, and I've not used Painter Classic for, that was a Windows 95 program, so it's going back a long way. Tell me about your tablet. I've got a very old bamboo tablet. Very old. It still works. It's a bit finicky, but it's like 1 billion years old. Wayne Haywood, belly chicken roast bench. Hang on. I missed the full stop. Belly chicken roast bench, Legion T-47 Airspeeder and Stormtroopers. Bitsbox Builder is researching logos and how to turn a picture into a silhouette when you have no clue about such things. Photoshop. EC Idaho is in. Welcome, EC Idaho. Bench HGUC Zaku 2S or Zaku Gunner. Frankie says, bench and belly. Nothing on the bench again because I'm more at work than at home and I'm still not in the mood for modelling. My belly is a lamb fillet with potatoes and peas. Yes. Ryan Dunbar, welcome. Ryan is belly beef stroganoff bench Sinanju Stein narrative. Sinanju Stein is a good mobile suit. 12 a.m. in Australia. A very early good morning to you. G'day, bro. Maybe early, but it's never too early for a nice beat. I'm not going to do an Australian accent again. In my head, it's a brilliant accent. In reality, I know you're sitting there going, Jesus Christ, what is he doing? I know. If you want venison, find a hunter to give you some. Most farm venison can taste bland. Yeah, we used to know a guy that lived across the road from us who we think was in land management, because he used to say to us, you want some game? Just let me know. I'll bring you some game. We live in the middle of suburbia, and he'd come home. He had an old black Jeep Cherokee called Black Bess, and he used to come home with like a deer on the roof, and he'd be like, "This is middle class suburbia. What?" But we assume he used to work in parks and gardens and things like that. We don't know. He might have just been a bit of a crip. We don't know. He's not there anymore. He actually passed away, sadly. But yes. Say it in German, Frankie, for Fox to read. I don't mind trying to read German. I'd probably butcher it horribly. Frankie says, bei mir gab es heute bei mir gab es heute Lammfilet mit Kartoffeln und Erbsen zum Mittagessen. Bei mir gab es heute Lammfilet mit Kartoffeln und Erbsen. It's not that I can't read it out, it's that I can't read the tiny text on my screen. Bei mir gab es heute Lammfilet mit Kartoffeln und Erbsen zum Mittagessen. Lol. Wacom Into Hour, didn't know the exact model number. Oh yeah, mine's a Wacom, it's the old bamboo from like 20 years ago. Mordraka says, yes, you tend to murder our accent. Oh no! That was terrible, that was more New Zealand. Belly leftover takeaway bench YouTube content. The junk works, Scott. You know how this works. You can't just say leftover takeaway. We need to know what takeaway and what was left and why it wasn't eaten at the time. We need to know all the details of the takeaway. That's like just saying pizza. Model Maker Mayhem looks at Frankie Gesundheit and he spells it wrong, but never mind. Moving on. Osric, welcome Osric. Says belly Chish Phipps bench still on the big HE219. Gross Models got accused of being Australian again last week. It is funny how Americans sometimes think that English people are Australian. I don't quite know why. And they think Australians are sometimes English, which is weird. Afternoon all bench Harry Potter 5D picture. Belly just cook 5D. Length, width, height, depth, time. What's the fifth D? Belly just cooking full roast beef dinner with devils on horseback and rest of trimmings, followed by fresh cream and custard raspberry trifle. Ross Madlock, welcome, and also please send me all your food. Dad is eating sausage rolls in the belly, and well, he's not eating them in his belly, he's obviously eaten them, and they're in his belly now. And fighting the Revell SARS search and rescue ship. Yeah. Very good, folks. EI in German is an I as in English. Yeah, I never remember if EI is I or E. I always get tripped up on that one. I knew you were from down south, says Mayhem to Chris, but I'm not that far south. I'm a lagomorph I do not spell. That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard, Sam. And if you don't mind me clawing at the dash and screaming like a cheerleader. Where are we? Yeah. Yes, I always get confused between IE and EI. I never know which is E and which is I. So I know that IE is I, as in mein Freund. Or Stein. Or eine. Eine dicke Zigarre hängt aus seinem Maul und ist fett und unangenehm. That's the only song I know in German. Fett und unangenehm. I don't know why I know that song. It's not a wartime song. It's not very complimentary to Churchill, so I probably shouldn't sing it. Right, so let's make some poxwalkers. Yes, if you're not familiar with the Warhammer Conquest, we get about 1 bajillion poxwalkers. Because we basically get all the poxwalkers that come in the old Dark Imperium set. And it's kind of fine. It's not a problem. It's nice having them all. They're simple builds, but the way they dish them out to you. Fox spoke a Sam and Max reference. The classics will never die. This is true. Friends. I go back all the way to the original PC game. They're quite simple to build, but they do give them to you like all in one kind of big lump. You get a load of them. You get like, because remember this is a monthly 2 or 3 issues. Hello, Mum Fox. And they give you a load of them, and then the next issue they give you more, and it's like, oh, I've just built. It kind of be nice if they spread them out a bit. Harry Potter 5D pick is 50 by 60. This is good, but what is the 5th dimension? Because you've got height, width, depth, time. That's 4. What's the 5th one? Junkworks is fried rice and chicken satay. Yes, there you go. That's how you do it. We want all the filthy details. Just stay over there, glue. Honestly, I'm trying to fit the glue into a corner and end it over there anyway. I'm not organised today. I've been a bit out of touch with these things. 5th D is smell. Yes, it has the smell of Harry Potter. Right, I've got the sniffles today, so I do apologise. So we are going to try and get 6 more poxwalkers built. I am taking for another spin my new Mr. Hobby, Mr. Tools, Mr. Nippers. Yeah, the Mr. thing's gone a bit too far. I've been using these, and I've still got my god hands for the fine work. But I'm really glad I got these. Because if you remember, I was using the big Games Workshop ones. And they're fine for like big, massive chunks of vehicles and stuff. But when you get to little figures on sprues, they're not ideal. They're a bit heavy duty. And I've been looking for a good pair of mid-range nippers. Don't mean price, I mean like power and strength. Mid-range between this, which is delicate, and I've still got this burp halfway there. It's really getting on my nerves. And halfway between this and the Games Workshop ones. And these are really nice. So the Mr. Hobby, Mr. Tools, Mr. Nipper, I think they're called. Mister. Let's have a look. Candy says, hi Dad, hope all is well. And Dad says, not bad thanks, Jeff, considering my neighbour fell through my greenhouse and smashed glass and wrecked plants. What? I'm not even good. Did you tell him there's no alloys in there to nick? Why would he fall through? I don't even know how you fall through a greenhouse. What? Brain's gone. I hope the nippers don't suffer from broken wings. Don't get it. I really understand how someone can fall through. I'm going to just crack on with these now. I can't give time to try to figure that out. We need D4 and D5. D4 and D5. So there's D5. Oh, and also D5. Because these aren't such big nubs that they need the Games Workshop industrial strength wire cutters, Atlantic cable cutters, but at the same time, they're a bit too heavy duty for me god hands, especially somewhere after you cut from the tip of the blades. They're a bit too heavy duty to put my god hands through it. D4 and D5. Where's D4? And I have been wincing every time I've had to use the god hands to get things off Games Workshop sprues, because there are some situations where the normal, Games Workshop ones are just far too big. And even just trimming some of the nubs, some of the bigger nubs on these GW kits is like, don't really want to risk my god hands. What's in there? Broken Wings by Mr. Mister. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is to quote Bones. But I think that Model Maker Mayhem, yes, I'm a Max. Mind you, nothing beats a glazed MacGuffin. Come on, be happy. It's glazed MacGuffin day. I'm not going to sing it for copyright reasons. Ivo Lim is in. Hey guys, it's been a while. Sorry I got busy. School just started. Welcome, Ivo Lim. Don't worry, you've not missed much because I've not been doing a lot of streams over the last few weeks because of various reasons. So it's all good. I've not done much and you've not missed much. So there you go. It's glazed MacGuffin day. Oh yes. How can you resist that green vapour that comes off a glazed MacGuffin? Oh yeah. I did like the animated Sam and Max series, but I did think that it lacked from having the same voices as the PC game, which I got used to. You know, Sam and Max Surfing Hit the Road, whatever it was called. I got used to those particular voice actors as Sam and Max. And although they kind of kept them similar, they weren't exactly the same. That's a kind of spanky pair of treads he's got on his foot there. He's got a kind of boot on his foot, which I know you can't see, but I'd kind of happily wear that boot myself. It looks mint. Yeah, so I got used to the voice actors anyway. And I can only remember, just before you asked, the only two lines I can remember from the video game are those two lines. Apart from the fact when you try and do something, it was an old Lucasfilm, LucasArts point and click. If you try and do something that Sam can't do, he'd be like, I can't do that. No, I really can't do that. No, I really, really can't do that. And he'd just get more insulting as he went along because you ask him to do something he can't do over and over again. But yeah. Mind if I drive, Sam? Not if you don't mind me clawing at the dash and screaming like a cheerleader. Any lines I can remember. So this Mr. Hobby, Mr. Tools, Mr. Nipper are good then, Fox, says Mr. Mayhem. Yes, they are rather good. They're very Mr. Good. They are pretty good, yes. I was trying to make that joke go further, but I ran out of... Hello, I'm being pinged. Hang on. Ooh, right, okay. Yes, so... Oops. What was I talking about? I've forgotten now already. Just going to give me 1 second, folks. I just need to respond to... It's very rude, I know, but I just need to respond to a text message. I'm going to put you on hold for 1 moment. I'll just hang on a minute. That didn't work. Oh, the button didn't work. Oh, the buttons have gone to sleep. Give me 1 second, folks. This is the problem, you see, with Streamlabs. Get rid of that and again. Let's try that again. Right, where's my buttons gone? There we go. Right, I'm just going to put you on hold for 1 second, guys. Nope. God damn it, button's still not working. Right. Okay, Streamlabs. I have to press the buttons manually. This is not acceptable. sorry about that. I just had to. It was a time-critical text message. I couldn't leave it, so I do apologise. Also, my neighbour started using the world's loudest lawnmower, so I had to go and close the window. Oh. Anyway, what was I talking about? No idea. Let's crack on. So, yes. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. I myself am pretty fine. Doing all right. Thank you very much. Finally shifted that infection. I had a tooth out a couple of 3 weeks ago, and picked up a little bit of an infection in my neck. Thanks, universe. That was fun. I've been on the antibiotics and just taking it easy. And that's gone now. It's all sorted out. So all is good. I've got to go in tomorrow on a Tuesday for another tooth to be pulled. And then hopefully that'll be it then. Oh, hello, what's that? So yeah, got to go back in on Tuesday for another tooth to be yanked out. Just the two of them though. And then once that's done, I'm back to normal. So hopefully I don't get another infection. Having the tooth taken out was just dead easy. It was like, there you go, done, no pain, cool, brilliant. Because I had an infection, and that's why I had to have the first tooth pulled out. And then I picked up another infection once that had been done. That was fun. Oh, I hate these little dangly pendants they have, these Death Guard. One there, and you will bend them and snap them off. I've nearly snapped it off there. I strongly suspect that will snap off before this gets it painted. So yeah, I mean, it's not. That's why I've been off air a little bit lately. It's just purely the infection wasn't anything that was really bad. It's just in your neck, and therefore sitting and talking for 2 or 3 hours is not really, especially for 2 or 3 times a week, was not something I wanted to do. I was just kind of resting my talking glands, and so on. Because you may not think it, but sort of sitting and talking for 3 hours is actually quite. It's not hard work, but it's not easy either. You know, I tend to get lots of sore throats and things just as a result of doing lots of live streams. So, because it is just non-stop talking for 3 hours, and I'd film into that as well. So yeah, I thought it'd be best if I just took it easy for a little while and didn't strain anything too much. So hopefully that won't happen again. Go in on Tuesday, get the tooth taken out. 2 or 3 days of sleeping on the couch downstairs so I can sleep in an upright position, which you're supposed to do. Which means I'll get no sleep at all, so I'll be grumpy and tired. So I probably won't get much done this week. But then once that's done, back to normal. Yay! Right, so I've got them done. Need to clean off all these little seam lines. Oh, Fox, that's no good. Glad you're back up. Yes, Space 1999 communicator sound. Oh yeah, that's my text message. Ross Medlock says he's recovering from a minor heart attack on Monday. Holy cow! Take it easy. I hope you're sort of recovering, dude. Take care of yourself. Take it easy. No, not good to hear that at all. At least it was a minor heart attack. That's, I suppose, it's some sort of silver lining. Take it as more of a warning, I suppose. There's that burp. I told you it'd come up. Yeah, take a sort of warning, like a shot across the bow, I suppose, to make some lifestyle adjustments, I guess. What else have we got going on? Lewis is in. Welcome, Lewis. We're talking about cubes. It's not me pinging. Oh, no, there. Frankie goes, let me ask you, do you have a favourite German singer or band? I would not know any. The only German musicians of any kind I know are Kraftwerk. Kind of it, really, I think. I can't think of any other German singers or bands. I'm not into songs and bands and stuff. I have no interest in that kind of stuff. I like ELO because I grew up with my parents listening to ELO. But in terms of bands and songs, I have no interest in that. I like music, but not songs. But in terms of artists, musical artists, Kraftwerk is the only person I know of. The only German musical thing, I guess. Chat's rolled down, hasn't it? Hey all on the bench, Ian's car, I'll say that again, Ian's car is in. Hey all on the bench to do 6 Chaos Space Marines and for the belly meatballs with something not sure yet. Mayhem says, I'm good. Well, I think I may be or have been annoying people. I'm sure you've been annoying people anyway. Talking of names, Fox should really be called the nub removing guru. No, because then people will send me more nubs to remove and I don't want that. Like it's something I enjoy doing. Brewmaid, what have I missed? Nothing. Nothing. I've actually been getting into lo-fi music. Oddly, it helps me focus on drawing, says Nim. Yeah, I tell you what, I've excuse me. I've always liked kind of like just non-lyrics music. So it's like either orchestral music or just mellow stuff. But one thing I found recently, because I was doing some editing, and I had to do something that it didn't require me listening to dialogue or anything. I may have been doing some Photoshop work, but it was going to take a while. I might have been doing some artwork for remodels, I'm not sure. And I'd been listening to the Destiny soundtrack, you know, from the video game Destiny. Not Destiny 2, because that's garbage, but the original Destiny soundtrack, Marty O'Donnell. And there's a couple of tracks on there that are really chilled out. And I can't remember what they're called. One might be called Reborn, and I can't remember what the other one's called. But what I did was I created a playlist on my music software, and I just had those 2 tracks going round and round looping. And they're like 5 minutes and 7 minutes long, so it's like every 15 minutes. And I've got to tell you, they're so sort of non-specific, because they're just like ambient stuff that you could just have them play. I've had them play now for like 2 hours on the trot, and it just chills me out. Dad, Mainzel Mansion still exists. Used to love the Saturday evening TV when I was in Germany. The adverts used to have the Mansell Mention, no German keyboard. Mansell Mention? Oh, there's a conversation about why is Lewis now called Sean, and it's because BritBox Builder says because he's freshly sheared. Yes, he did a little charity haircutting thing last night. Was it last night? I think, Lewis, where he had his head shaved to raise funds for Models for Heroes. Very good. I didn't get a chance to watch, unfortunately, but I hope it went well. I hope you raised some nice monies for the chaps, for Malcolm. This boot is a really nice boot. I'm looking forward to painting that boot. I said it before, that one of the things that Games Workshop do really well on their figures is footwear, the boots that people wear. Where's me scrapey to? Where's me? There it is. The boots that people wear, they really are quite cool. Like the ordinary people boots, not like, you know, Space Marine boots. They do boots really well. Skyrim ambient soundtracks are also nice. Oh yeah, I've got the Skyrim playlist. I've got the Skyrim soundtrack. I mean, I've got playlist set up, and what I did was I took out all the action music because it's kind of tedious, and I just had stuff that was relaxing. There's still about 5 hours of music. I've got the whole, you know, multi-CD CD. I got it signed and everything, which, as I've said before, was really good up until like summer of 2018 when it all went a bit wrong. Yeah, and there's like a good 2 or 3 hours of just pleasant ambient stuff on there that you can listen to. That's another good soundtrack. And it's weird because when I first got Skyrim, I loved the music in it. And I was like, oh, you can buy the soundtrack on a limited edition printed. It was a limited release by Bethesda, I think. Signed by what's his face? I've forgotten his name. Not Jeremy Soule. It's the other one. What's his name? I can only think of Jeremy Soule. It's not Jeremy Soule. Or is it Jeremy Soule? No, it's not. It's anyway, yeah, whatever his name is. And I got it. Well, this would be brilliant because I love the music in the game. And I listened to it and I was like, this is all garbage. I can't listen to this while I'm doing artwork and stuff. You know, some music is listenable. I'm just going to put my dog tags around the back. Some music is listenable that you can just sit and listen to it. And some music is great in context, like in a game. But when you listen to it by itself, it doesn't work. And at first I'm like, I can't listen to that. So it just sat. I put the CD back in my collection and never did anything with it. And about 8 months ago, I was doing some tidying up and found the CD and I'm like, let's give it another go. And I listened to it and it's like, actually, now you know what? I can listen to that. And I think it's because when I started doing live streams and on YouTube's, and I needed things like when this stream starts and you've got that ambient pre-roll music, finding that music, it's the first time I really sort of sat and listened to that kind of ambient electronica or anything like that, chill out music. I think it opened my mind a little bit to that type of music, and then when I listened to the Skyrim soundtrack again, I was more amenable to it, because I wasn't really listening to that kind of music up until that point, so I think I was more amenable to that. Oops. It's a very good soundtrack. Lewis says, yep, you raised £210, way to go. Models for Heroes will be quite happy about that. Good show, dude. See him on his belt. Am I on camera? I hope I'm on camera. Knowing where to put the camera on these live streams is a real tricky thing, because I'm right-handed. So ideally the camera should be on the left-hand side, and I keep knocking the microphone, and I do apologise. Let me just move it back a bit. I do apologise. Yeah, having the camera on the right-hand side when I'm right-handed means you see a lot of this, and I don't like that, but I can't have it on the left-hand side because there's nothing to mount the camera to, and the camera lead's not long enough, so yeah. I tried ambient music, just doesn't do it for me. Lo-fi is a nice chill beat with minimum lyrics dependent on the track, says Nim. Or cafe jazz. Yeah, lo-fi is just kind of like slow. It's like badass stroller music, but slow and mellow. A bit like some of the stuff I put in the pre-roll. It's not something I would listen to myself personally if I wanted music in the background. Like if I'm surfing the webs, or my kind of routine is that if I'm doing something that doesn't require sound, like I'm surfing the internet and I'm not watching videos, and I'm mostly just surfing websites and reading, then I'll have music playing. But it's always kind of, I don't know, I don't really do chill out stuff that much, because it doesn't do anything for me. It's alright, I like it. But that Destiny stuff, I'll have that if I'm doing Photoshop, because I've got it on a loop and it just plays for hours and hours and hours, so I can just leave it running. But sometimes I want something with a bit more zing, so I've got my sort of, you know, library music collection that also has similar effects. Jeremy Soule, there you go. Sad Jeremy Soule couldn't be in Elder Scrolls 6. Some rumours said he got arrested. No, he was accused of various... I've got to be very careful how I say these things. He was accused, it is alleged, that he was a bit of a sexual predator and did some very unpleasant things with female colleagues. And that was the thing in late 2018. And then he kind of disappeared off the radar at that point. I've said it before, it's like, you know, it all got a bit rapey. But of course, I'm just going off things I've read. I'm not expressing a fact. It was alleged. It was nothing's been heard of it since. But yes, it was kind of from that point, I think it was a case of, we might want to get a different composer for Elder Scrolls 6. So yeah, Jeremy Soule, that's it. Which is a shame, because he's a really good composer for some of this stuff. Right. I listened to video game battle and boss music ambient once to make me go to sleep, says Eon's car. I was surprised by the soundtrack for Persona 4. Because I'd never, you know, I wasn't really into RPG stuff and I couldn't stand JRPGs. And when I played Persona 4, the music in that was so catchy, even though it's terrible. It's like K-pop. J-pop version of K-pop, but it was so terrible, and yet it worked really in context, and I kind of fell for it in a way. I really like the music on that, so I did download the soundtrack to Persona 4, and we used to listen to that on occasion. Is it just the 2 parts for this dude? Get this bit glued on. Beep. So yeah, that soundtrack was quite good. I listened to that for a while. I was about to hum some of it, and copyright, can't do that. Yeah. What are we doing? Yes, that's a bit glued on there. I'm really cautious of this dangly little fly pendant hanging off the end of his knife blade because they do snap so easily, and I don't think there's a Death Guard character yet with these things that I haven't just snapped it off. Suspect it will not last very long. Let's get him glued on. Now, as always, remember, I'm using the extra thin for gluing things on that don't need to support their own weight. But when it comes to gluing figures on bases, I tend to use the regular Tamiya cement, purely because it's got some stick to it, because it's viscous. So you've seen me do this before, use the regular fat cement to get him on the base. Just to stick him down. It literally is stick. The glue isn't doing its business. It's just that the liquid is so viscous that it's held in place with the surface tension. The extra thin wouldn't let you do that. I'll give him a second. EC Idaho says, listen to many movie soundtracks and video game soundtracks. Vangelis is quite good, and Jean Oxygen and Equinox. When I was much younger, in the late 80s, early 90s, Vangelis and Jean-Michel Jarre were my heroes. Jarre up until Rendezvous. Rendezvous was the last good album that Jarre did. After Rendezvous, it was just kind of garbage. Revolutions was, well, part of this could be tinted by the fact that around about that time, I started to play synthesizer myself. And I started to understand how all the sounds he made were used, and all the synthesizers he used, how he programmed the sounds and what they were made of, and how patches and waveforms and stuff worked. And that may have soured it a bit because he used a lot of sort of sounds that were preset on some of the synths he had. But I think after Rendezvous, starting with Revolutions, his music became a bit dry and lifeless. And I think he peaked with Rendezvous 2. He peaked with Rendezvous 2, and after that, Revolutions wasn't very good, and Chronology was kind of gash, and it went a bit terrible, and I kind of stopped listening to him after that. I went as far as Chronology. No, in fact, I went as far as Waiting for Cousteau, and the first track of Waiting for Cousteau, the one with the that was proper return to his form, and after that was terrible. And then he got into like T and Taya and weird dancey stuff and club, and I'm like, yeah, you've gone too far into club anthems now, and no. And then he even did like Oxygen 7 to 13. I'm like, no, it's not. You're not. That's just Oxygen 7 to 13 was just Blade Runner. So I went off him. And Vangelis is one of those artists. Vangelis is an artist. He's a true artist, and I adore Vangelis. But again, he's one of those artists that has a massive library of works, but a lot of them you wouldn't want to listen to. It sounds really weird, but a lot of them you would not want to listen to. If you get the album Themes, which is like a compilation album, that's kind of some of his best stuff. Early stuff up to, how far does that go? That goes up to Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire, I think. About as late as that. Maybe Missing, if that was after. I need my pen to cross that one off. But yeah, again, Vangelis is like... There's the odd track within a lot of chaff with Vangelis. D21, D22. Like Heaven and Hell. The album, one of his earliest albums, Heaven and Hell, is absolute garbage apart from Alpha, which is the theme they used on Vangelis and Cosmos. And a couple of others. So there's a lot of his stuff where it's not great to listen to. But yeah, he has his moments. But then again, you see, Vangelis started to go downhill a bit. He did an album called The City, which was quite nice, but it was a lot of preset built in, not particularly carefully made sounds. It's kind of the change from subtractive synthesis into additive synthesis. So it went from, analog synthesizers or digital versions of analog synthesizers where you'd modulate a waveform, and it went to synthesizers that worked based on samples of sawtooths and sine waves and things. And that kind of, I think, killed a lot of creativity. When Vangelis stopped using his old, CS90s and things like that, and all the synths he was known for using, and started using all the digital stuff, and it started to get a bit bad. And The City was all right, but then I got 1492, the album, and that was just dire. was like, nah, he's fading out now. D21, D22. D21, there's 22. Where's 21? That's 18. 12. There's 21. Right. So yeah, Vangelis has got his moments. I mean, it's very rare that you'll find a musician, not a songwriter, but a musician that has just constant good quality stuff all the time. There's always clunkers. But Jar certainly sort of fell over after Rendezvous and went downhill. And he's always been labelled as one of the godfathers of like dance music, which I think is valid and true. But I think he went... The problem with that was he then started to embrace it and do it. He started to do the music that he inspired and sort of had a hand in seeding. And that's where it kind of fell over a bit, because that's not what he's good at, I think, in my opinion. But then again, he's like 70 odd now, so do you know? I'm no music expert. I may know to avoid anyone advertised as critically acclaimed. Yeah, Spiral's my favourite Vangelis album, so older stuff. I don't think I actually would say I like any of his specific albums. It's more just specific pieces of music. So pretty much anything on themes is good. Because his albums are always a case of 7 tracks, 2 of the 3 of which are quite listenable. The rest are all kind of background. Like I say, Heaven and Hell. Yeah, most of Heaven and Hell is terrible. But then again, that's the early 70s, so that's all prog rock experimental nonsense anyway. But that gives you things like Alpha and the other one that I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, tastes change. Don't even know how we got onto that. But Vangelis was a massive influence on my early electronica. And Jar. Vangelis kind of taught me how to... How can I explain this? Vangelis taught me texture. And Jar taught me simplicity in complex things. Jar taught me that you can make a complex, evolving piece of music. Because I was never formally trained in music, and I was never taught how to play musical instruments or how to write and read music. I can't read and write music. Did I want that tool? No, I didn't. I was just self-taught. And Vangelis taught me how to create expansive and deep and wide sounds using just layering and echoes and acoustics, you know, reverbs and stuff. And Jar taught me how to break a piece of music down into its simplest forms. Early Jar. And how you can have a compelling piece of music with only a small number of individual instruments. By instruments, I mean, like, you know, in the case of electronica, sounds. You know, like you might have an arpeggio bass, an arpeggio sort of foundation for a tune, and then a lead hook over the top with 2 or 3 different sounds. And it's quite a formula that it repeats, and it's effective, and it influenced me massively. And Vangelis, on top of that, was Vangelis's influence, which was telling me that you can use sweeping horn sounds and string pads and things to get great variation. And Vangelis taught me how, you know, you don't just make a nice sound and press the key. You make a nice sound and press the key, but have the sound swell with volume as it gets to an emphasis point, or you have the volume up and down. And by the end of it, when I used to do recordings, I was recording with one hand on the keyboard and one hand on the volume slider to make, because I didn't have foot pedals, so I was like making the sounds come in. And I don't say I ever got any good at it, but I tried to implement all the things I'd learned. And I think because that's how I learned, I think when they all moved away from that, it was like, now you're just moving into like, oh look, that's the sound from that's an automated preset loop from a Roland D20. Oh look, there's that hitting metal sound from a Korg M1. Oh look, there's that pad sound from a Korg M1. And it when it got to the point where I was recognizing sounds, I kind of felt that creativity had gone a bit. Because that I may have the synthesizer wrong. The one that Vangelis used was either the Yamaha CS90 or something. It was an old analog synth that was unreliable and weighed about 1 billion tons. Whatever, I can't remember what it's called now. Was cantankerous and unreliable, but he managed to just tease the most amazing sounds out of it. That cliche classic Vangelis horn sound. It took me a long time to try and reproduce that on any synthesizer. Layering music, just like paints, Duncan would be proud. Oh yeah. Vangelis taught me that if you want to make even the simplest of tunes sound expansive and dramatic and have a certain gravitas, then use a slow attack horn sound that swells and fades. I don't mean like a trumpet sound, but I mean like I can't explain it to somebody who doesn't know about synthesis, but it's like a sawtooth based pad of 3 or 4 waveforms with a slow attack speed and a slow decay speed, and you can sustain it if you need to. It's hard to explain, but it's a very simple thing to do once you understand it, and it just makes everything sound 1 billion times better. 2 thin notes, says Scaly Models. Oh yeah, 2 thin notes. Beckstorm says, yep, I'll take being called the hipster any day. I can just find and listen to the stuff I actually like. Godfather, not once do you pay a tribute to the family of synth dance. Not once do you cut off a horse's head and post to a trad jazz club. You disrespected my family. You disrespected my family. It's me, Mario. This is a completely unusable thingamabob, says Model Making Mayhem. Yes, I get the reference. But, says Team Inept, I shall just say what am I doing now? I need to get this bit trimmed and cleaned up, don't I? Yes. I'm not doing very much working today because something's irritating my elbow, and also I'm kind of quite happily talking away here. So I do apologise. Not really sure where the camera is either. And I've got the camera in such a place that I have to kind of stoop down to not bang it with my head every 5 seconds, which is kind of annoying. Okay. Nebulation. Snippety snippet. How is everyone? I hope you're all good. Hope you're all doing fine and dandy. Wherever you are, whatever's happening in your part of the world. Can I get at these with the God hands? Yes, there we go. Lovely job. On a serious note, do we know if Colin is okay? Yes, if you were tuned in to watch Colin's stream earlier on, you may notice it didn't actually go ahead. I have heard from Colin. Yes, he's okay. I don't really want to discuss it, and it's not for me to say anything about it because it's for Colin to say that. Yes, he's all right. There was an occurrence, and he was not able to do the stream earlier on. But he's okay. He's back at home now, and it's all fine. And he may have got a telling off from somewhere. So it's not for me to say. So I shall just leave it with he's fine. That was the text message earlier on. It was a text from Cole, because I texted him say, "Dude, is everything okay? Because you stream." I thought maybe. I know he'd been unwell, and I was surprised he was doing a stream today. If I'm totally honest, I didn't think he'd be up to doing a stream today. So when it didn't start, I'm like, yeah. Oh, hello, something fell off. When it didn't start today, I'm thinking, I think he's realised it's not really something he can do today. But then when Dave said, I don't know why we're not going today, I thought, okay, something's happened, so I texted him. He's all right. He'll be okay. Don't worry. But like I say, it's not for me to give details. You know, I respect other people's privacies. We'll be crossing fingers so that your pending dental visit goes smoothly with no complications. Hopefully it will be as easy and smooth as the other one. Like I say, I literally sat there. She went, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There you go. Tooth came out. Although she went, wiggle, wiggle. I went, ha. And she went, oh, bit more drugs. And then she gave me more numbingness and just pulled it out. So I'm hoping, because this tooth isn't quite as loose. Basically because I had an infection in the 2 back teeth and it kind of didn't go very well, so I got to take them out. The first one was because there was an infection anyway. and the tooth was being pushed out of the way by nastiness. This one is more the tooth's just sensitive and a little tiny bit loose, and I said to her, can I just get it taken out? Because it's a pain in the bum having to sort of pussyfoot around it when I'm brushing my teeth. It's not painful on a normal daily basis, it's just twingy when I brush my teeth, and it can get painful occasionally. And if there is an infection in there, I'd rather have that tooth taken out now before it affects the teeth in front of it. And she went, yeah, take it out. But because it's not as loose, I'm not so sure. So I'm hoping it will just come out as easily with as little trouble as the other one. Because once the tooth comes out, there's nothing there left there to cause pain because the nerve's in the tooth. I didn't know that. Yeah, once the tooth comes out, done. There you go. Bye. No more pain. Woohoo! Just take it easy for a few days and brush your teeth a bit tentatively and you'll be fine. Wiggle, wiggle, tooth came out. It wasn't just the tooth that came out. No, my dentist is loud and scary and Irish. She's Irish and loud and scary. Yeah. Dental nurse, of course, on the other hand, she's very nice. She's very, very nice. Oh, I see what you mean. You think maybe something else came out, like pooping, you mean? No. Now, it was the first time in my entire life I'd ever had the tooth taken out by the dentist. I've been to the dentist before for things like fillings and stuff like that. So I've had the injections in my mouth before, and I don't really care about them. They're nothing. You know, the anti-hurting injections in your mouth, they're fine. They don't even hurt to have them. So I'm not bothered by them. But it is about 10 years since I've been to a dentist, and it's the first time I'd ever had a tooth out. And I'm like, oh, so I was terrified the night before. But then when I got there, it was like, right, we'll just do this, inject. Right, and we'll just take it out. There you go, bye. I was in and out within about 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. It was awesome. So I'm just hoping this one comes out with the same amount of ease, and that I don't get any further infection. They think the infection I got was the infection that was there before, but basically there was an infection. They took the tooth out and hopefully got rid of it all, but some of the infection managed to work its way into the socket and then into my jaw and then to my throat. So the actual socket itself, where the tooth was, wasn't bad. It was just the jaw and my neck swelled up a little bit. And I decided to get that seen to. Does it need a filling or a crown instead of a removal, says EC? I don't know. It's the whole tooth. The tooth is there, and it's like the infection's in the gum. There's some gum disease there, basically, because, you know, when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, life was a bit different then. So there is some little bit of gum disease affecting it. So that's not something you can cure or fix. It's just a case of once the socket's affected, that's it. It's just going to, you know, it's always going to have that bit of damage to the jaw. Because gum disease is basically where the socket that the tooth sits in is kind of eroded away a little bit. Imagine you've got a socket in your jaw and the tooth sits in it perfectly and fits like a glove and it's locked in place. But if that erodes away a little bit, now the tooth's wobbly, it's always a potential site for infection behind that tooth. So it's like, yeah, we'll just take it out. And, you know, it's not been giving you any trouble for the last week, but I know it's there, and you can't regrow that bone in your jaw. So just remember, folks, brush your teeth, floss your teeth, dental brushes, all that kind of stuff. Do it. I spent too many years not doing that, and now I'm paying the price for that. So, yeah. I know you're young and you think you're invincible, but you know what? You're not. Take it from an old man like me who thought the same thing. I've got to tell you, though, I've never done incidental brushes before. And now the dentist gave me a look and a shouting and a telling off, and I've got to do incidental brushes. I've got to tell you, I actually quite like it. Because I was always like, oh, I don't want to stick a brush in between my teeth, and it's going to be gross and painful and horrible. I don't want to do that. I need to just blow my nose. Hang on. Hang on. Oh, not blow my nose, but wipe my nose. I was like, I don't want to stick little brushes between my teeth. I don't mind cleaning my hairbrush with them. Yeah. But, so I got myself some little incidental brushes, and you know what? I was like, actually, it doesn't hurt, it's not uncomfortable, and it's bizarrely relaxing. Like, one of the last things I'll do before I go to bed at night, I'll, you know, floss and I'll brush my teeth and I'll get my two incidental brushes out to get all the ming out from between my teeth. Because that's the key to good tooth and gum care, is clean out between the teeth. And I was like, you know what? Just spending 10 minutes just sort of chilled out, wiggling these little brushes between my teeth, It's actually kind of relaxing. It's a nice sort of quiet activity to end the day on. So I'm sold on it now. I'm like, yeah, sold on that. So I thought it'd be a right pain in the backside, but no, it's kind of relaxing. Top glued to his lower half, or the two halves of his body glued together. I do like the fact with these poxwalkers, if you're going to make some eyelash, the one thing you don't need to worry about too much is seam lines. A lot of them have like two halves of the body go together. I realise the camera's actually quite far out. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. Is that maybe a little tiny bit better? They do often have like a seam where you glue the two halves of the body together. But because they're minging and covered in pustules and blobs and all kinds of nastiness, a lot of the times that little gap disappears. And especially if you put in enough glue and you push them together and a little bit of the glue splooges out, it just blends in with the rest of the rough textured skin. And you really can't see the joins. They've done a very good job for the most part of hiding those joins in amongst all the folds of skin and bits and horribleness. First and last time I had a tooth out, the dentist gave me 3 lots of pain relief. He went wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I passed out and the tooth stayed in. Yeah, I was lucky the first time then. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hi all, haven't done as much warhammering as I wanted, but I've swapped the battery on my mobile phone. When your battery expands like a popcorn bag in the microwave, time to change it. Yes, absolutely. The reason I had my PSP earlier on, yeah, I haven't had this for about 3 or 4 years, because I lent it to a friend about 3 or 4 years ago and kind of forgot about it, to be perfectly honest. Because I didn't really use it much, because back in those days there was nothing at all you could do with it. There were like 5 games. But I read an article saying that people are starting to find now that their old PSP batteries have started to swell and expand because they're lithium ion, and that's what lithium ion batteries do after like 15 years. And I thought to myself, ooh, I had a PS Vita and it's with my friend right now and she's got a couple of young boys. I thought to myself, you might want to change that. So I sent my friend a message saying, just so you know, because I haven't spoken to you for a long time, obviously, but just so you know, you might want to consider taking the battery out of the PS Vita and swapping it for a new one, or just taking it out and checking it. Because at the time, I couldn't remember. The old PSPs had removable batteries. PS Vitas don't. It's an integral battery. It's built in like an iPhone. And I had no memory of this. I'd seen the thing for 4 years. So I texted him and said, you might want to take the battery out, either check it or throw it away or whatever. I can get a new one if needed. And he said, I don't have any of the screwdrivers. Why don't I just bring it round and drop it off and you can do that? Okay. So he brought it round. And I have to admit, I haven't opened it up and checked it, but it's not swelling or expanding, so I think it's okay. It's only been used for about, in its entire life, it's probably about 10 hours of use, I think, that PS Vita. So, but yeah, it's not swollen or anything. I've not taken it out to check it. But I do know how you take the battery out, and it's quite a simple process with a couple, all you need is a spudger and a 0-size screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, and of course, replacement battery. Look up a guy named Anton Lee who lived in California around the 1930s. From the news clipping, from stainless steel, he has made himself a complete set of unbreakable artificial teeth. Cool. Now imagine that with like a 1930s movie newsreel announcer voice. I can't do an American news. I haven't got that mid-Atlantic accent. From stainless steel, he has made himself a complete... I can't do it, but you get the idea. Spudger being a hammer, says Scaly Models. No, it's an actual tool called a spudger. I think if I do need to get into the battery case, I think what I'll do is I'll get myself the little iFixit basic set, which is like a set of some Phillips head screwdrivers, some Torx wrench heads, some spudgers, and a separating tool. Spudger. That's 2 dudes done so far. What are we on? 4:10, an hour, 2 dudes. Not doing as good as normal. But I'm having a good time talking to you guys. D24 and D23. D24 and D23. In honour of Colin, D23. I can't think. I was going to do a funny line then, and I suddenly realised I hadn't actually planned a funny line. Never mind. D23, because it's a thing. D24 and D23. Right, so I need to cut these off the spring and stop talking. 24 and 23. Well, there's 24. Oh, 24 is just ahead. Spudger, mushroom, says Spiddy Q8. Very good, 10 points. I don't know why it's called the spudger, but it's like a little separating tool for separating things apart gently. I don't know why it's called the spudger. I don't know about the verb to spudge. D12 is that one. What are you doing, dear? I'm just spudging, dear. Okay, well, dinner's ready. Come down in 5 minutes. Okay. Jolly good. There's a photo of Mr. Lee in the clipping, and I wonder if the makers of Moonraker might have seen it, referring to the chap with stainless steel teeth. Isn't that what DeLorean did from all this pressed steel? Look at this car this man has made. Yes. The DeLoreans were... was it brushed aluminium or brushed stainless steel? I can't remember. I do remember once back in the day when we were doing when I was in the detailing trade, and somebody came in once and was like, "Oh, what would you do with a DeLorean? I've got a DeLorean that's a bit old and it needs sprucing up. What would you do on it?" Because we did full on proper detailing, machine polishing, everything, paint restoration. What would you do with it? And bearing in mind our full package would include things like a 3-stage machine polish and all the kind of goodness. And I said, I'd take 10 minutes of my day to put a wax on it. And no, I said I'd wash it, and I'd spend half an hour putting a wax on it, and that'd be it. And he's like, would you machine polish it? And I'm like, why would you machine polish brushed aluminium? You're just going to make it look like brushed aluminium. It's supposed to look like it's been brushed aluminium. Because if you don't know, when you machine polish your car, it's take out all the little swirls in the paint texture, in the clear coat. Get rid of all the swirls and scratches. But if you look at the brushed aluminium or steel, brushed stainless steel, says Beckstub. If you look at brushed stainless steel, it's actually, that's the entire look. It's the whole texture is created by an infinite number of swirls and scratches. That's why it's brushed. It's literally like that, and all the pattern, that sort of weird texture, is because of the scratches. It's made of scratches. So I was like, yeah, you wouldn't machine polish it because you'd be taking out all the scratches that make it brushed steel, you spoon. It's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to have scratches, that's the way it is. It's supposed to be that if you scratch it, you don't know because it blends into all the other scratches. It was like, really? I said, yeah, so we can't really help you. I can wash it for you and we can put a coat of wax on it, but you could just buy the wax and stuff from us and do it yourself. Okay. Mint car though, absolute mint. I mean, I've never sat in a car that's got carpet on the dashboard before, but good God, it was epic. And I really want one, even though I know they're rubbish. It would be cool to have a DeLorean. When I win the lottery, when I win the lottery, what can you do with that? Wash it. Bye. In a way, it's like the easiest to maintain car in the world in terms of the bodywork, because it's stainless steel, so it's not going to rust, and there's no paint to worry about. It's just bare metal. So as long as you don't crash it, in which case you're not going to get a replacement body panel. As long as you don't crash it, there's just no bodywork maintenance at all, apart from washing it from time to time. That's my kind of car. But you could go my route, which is to do it as a rat rod, paint it with, cover it with. See, I hate washing my car, and I don't need to anymore because I basically repainted it as a rat rod, gave it a matte clear coat, and now it doesn't get washed because it's not supposed to be washed. It's a rat rod. Although, like I've said before, we did kind of mess up a little bit, and we didn't mix the clear coat properly for one half, so one half of it's kind of a little bit shiny, and the other half is properly matte. Yeah, so that didn't work out well, sadly. But hey, you live and learn. But that's why even with model making, when you're matte varnishing, spray the living crap out of your matte varnish. Even though you're not talking proper automotive clear coat here. Matte varnishes tend to be gloss varnishes with a matting agent in them. Always shake the crap out of your matte varnish. Always. And the same with Agrax Earthshade, bizarrely. Sorry, knocking the microphone. Same with Agrax Earthshade. Agrax Earthshade is gloss is just Agrax Earthshade with the matting agent taken out. So if you don't shake Agrax Earthshade properly, it comes out glossy. Which I was amused to find out is not a well-known thing amongst Games Workshop staff. My local store manager, I was in there one day and some guy came in and said, yeah, did something with Agrax Earthshade. It came out all shiny and I wonder why that was. And he's like, don't know. And this is a guy who knows what he's doing. Like, I don't know, never come across that. And I said, you haven't shaken it enough. Because I've had the same thing myself, and it's like, oh, there's obviously a matting agent in there that doesn't get mixed in. If you spray a matte varnish and it goes really powdery, like you spray on the model and suddenly it looks like you've frosted it. That's, if I knock this camera once more, if you spray a matte varnish and it comes out like a powdery frosting, there's that burp again, excuse me. It's because the matte varnish is separated out and floats above the matting agent is lighter than the rest of the varnish. So if you've got a rattle can, you don't shake it and you spray your model and it comes out powdery and frosty because you've basically just sprayed all the matte agent onto the model and not the actual rest of the varnish. I should always shake your matte varnish. Bitsbox says, obviously for me the best thing about DeLoreans is their ability to hover. Well, there is that. It does make the axles and drivetrain a bit vulnerable though to shock damage, as in impact damage. Because you've got that bit where the wheels go sideways. That's a lot of extra mechanical stuff in there to break. Not if I win it first, Fox, says Model Maker Mayhem. Carpet on the dashboard, that's almost as bad as carpet in a kitchen, says Team Inept. Hey, I said to Mama Fox the other week, if you weren't there when we had this conversation, I mentioned about us having carpet in the kitchen, and it was like, why would you have carpet in the kitchen? We had the house decorated in the 80s, and that was what we had put in. So I said to Mama Fox, I mentioned about carpet in the kitchen, and everybody was like, what? Mama Fox was like, don't look at me, that was your father's doing. Don't even ask why he made that decision. I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm a professional card-carrying idiot in many things, and I proudly get that from my father. Yeah, bless him. If I'm a card-carrying idiot, my father was treasurer of the Idiot Club. We not in smarts idiocy, but in practical knowledge and usefulness idiocy. My dad, he'd put a shelf up, and I'd swear you'd get shelves at 45 degrees to the vertical. It'd be like every time, because my dad had no practical skills whatsoever, no DIY, no practical. He tried, bless him, and he sometimes got it right, and it was quite good. But sometimes yeah. And I actually inherited that. And that's why I'm a painter, not a builder. That's why I don't do like Steve, Bitsbox Builder does his scratch builds, because he's got that practical skill. I've got none of that. None of that skill at all. Inherited none of it. I inherited entirely my father's lack of any practical ability. That's why I don't do it. My limits. Acquaintance of mine has built and sold several drivable replicas of the DeLoreans from the Back to the Future movies. Yeah, there's a few people that do that. And the actual there's a guy that bought the DeLorean company and has all the original body parts that were still left over. And you can actually now build them. DeLorean still exists. You can buy brand new DeLoreans that are made from, basically when the company went bust, there was a warehouse full of body parts the DeLoreans, all the body shell parts. And they just sat there. And of course it's stainless steel, so this guy just bought them all, guy in the US, and now sells them. I don't know how many he can potentially make, but now they're all electric vehicles. They're all electric up nowadays. But this is going back a few years, so they might have changed from by now. But yeah, you can still buy them brand new. And they're not replicas, they are the original components, because he just bought the company and all the assets, which were, you know, probably hundreds and hundreds of bits of body shell. Never seen Back to the Future is the new Never Seen Star Wars, except one is forgivable and one is Never Seen Star Wars. If you've never seen Back to the Future, you're alright. If you've never seen Star Wars, just get out. You need to deal with that lack of, that missing part of your existence. It's not acceptable. Not acceptable. And of course, when I say never seen Star Wars, I mean 4, 5 and 6. We don't count anything after 4, 5 and 6 as part of that. It's perfectly acceptable to have never seen 1, 2 and 3. In fact, it's a legal requirement that you never watch 1, 2 and 3. And it's perfectly acceptable never to have seen the latest films, because it's not, you know, they're not such a cultural icon. But to have never seen 4, 5 and 6, that's to have never experienced a whole chunk of the 1970s and 1980s, if you were there at the time. Or if you weren't, you're missing out on a big chunk of motion picture history. Because it's like, you know, 4, 5 and 6, that was a massive chunk of motion picture history. The history of cinema changed when those films came. Star Wars itself, like it or hate it, was a massive geological tectonic shift in cinema at the time. It was it led to an amazing change. It wasn't the sole cause of it, but it was part of it, because up until that point, if you break down cinema into its simplest terms, up until the sort of late 50s, early 60s, cinema was the old Hollywood model of glamorous stars and excessive lighting and Technicolor and everything else, and everything was larger than life and all that kind of stuff. Then in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, you started to get the sort of cinema verite movement and the more realistic filming. And there's a common question is, why do films in the 70s look like really bad? Like the quality of the image compared to the earlier films in the 40s and 50s, which were all bright colours. It's because they stopped doing all that nonsense and they wanted to make things more realistic. And I know this because my dad was part of that kind of movement in the late 50s, early 60s. That part of filming real life rather than making big number productions. There's a few films in the British Film Archive that have my dad's name on them. Films that he and some other people made that were part of that in the UK, bringing, you know, real life to the screen. That wasn't just Hollywood spectacle. It was the death of the Hollywood spectacle, basically. And then it became into the modernist movement and the cinema verite, and you get things like you get some grim stuff, and you get things like French Connection, and it's shot in very realistic tones. You get lots of handheld camera work. This is before the Steadicam. Handheld camera work and stuff like that. And that was the current trend at that time in the 70s when Star Wars came out. And then Star Wars came out, and it was like we'd had some big sort of epic movies. You'd have things like Close Encounters and similar things like that, but Star Wars was really a return to the kind of blockbuster. The whole blockbuster thing had kind of faded away. It wasn't really a thing anymore. This doesn't fit very well. The whole thing of the sort of the cinema blockbuster had kind of faded away. It wasn't really as prevalent, and that kind of brought it back. So it didn't stop the other sort of styles of film, but it really sort of brought it back. That does not fit very well at all. I don't like that. But it made people realise that there was still a place for shameless entertainment type movies. Not the glitz and glamour of 50s and 40s Hollywood, but still the sort of almost not quite mindless, but shameless action romps type thing. It was still there. Sci-fi B-movie type stuff. There was still a potential for it. And that's where, things started to change then. That's where it was the birth of the sort of what we see now as that sort of the summer blockbuster. Because there wasn't really a thing as the kind of summer blockbuster movie at that point. There were some big budget blockbuster movies, but they weren't like that kind of spectacle. And that Star Wars was part of that. Whereas, you fast forward to the mid-90s and you get the Star Wars prequels come out, they don't bring anything new to the table. There's nothing new there at all. They're not inventing or recapturing anything. They're just more big budget blockbuster movies that frankly weren't any good at all, but they were just more of something that already existed. And the same with the current shocker films. The current Star Wars films, 7, 8, 9, absolutely fine, no problem at all. I enjoyed them, they were good films. But they're not new. There's nothing new there. They're not breaking any genres. They're not breaking new ground. They're not invigorating cinema. That's why 4, 5, and 6, to say you've never watched Star Wars is to have missed out on a big sea change and tectonic shift in the history of cinema, without which you wouldn't have things now. You wouldn't have had things like, the Star Trek movies, or you wouldn't have had anything that came after that, or the Back to the Futures, your Batmans, all those kind of blockbuster sci-fi summer movies, that kind of thing, Jurassic Parks, they just wouldn't have happened, or may not have happened. Blade Runner was a pivotal futuristic sci-fi. Blade Runner was kind of on the reverse of that, whereas Star Wars was a return to the spectacle and the start of the summer blockbuster. Blade Runner was like at the tail end of the sort of cinema verite, earthy, realistic, true to life type genre, but with a budget. It was on the tail end of things like All the President's Men and Capricorn 1 and films like that. It came at the end, but said, let's take that and put a big budget on it. It was the crossover between the spectacle, the summer blockbuster that was just kind of becoming a thing, and the end of that sort of grim, gritty era. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it. It's a fascinating way to look at it. So yes, you can easily have say I've never watched Star Wars 1, 2, 3 or 7, 8 and 9 and nobody cares. But if you've not seen 4, 5 and 6, you've missed out. Whether the films are any good in your opinion isn't really important. You have to view them in the context of the time. And at the time as well, don't forget, the whole world was in crisis. In the US, you had all the oil crises, and especially in the UK and other places, and people wanted something big distraction. Right at that point, grim cinema verite was not the best thing for people. Championship Gimbap says, why do you use 2 different glues? I have Tamiya Cement and Tamiya Extra Thin. Both kind of the same thing, except this one's more stronger, and this one is thicker. This one's a little bit stronger. They both melt the plastic. This one doesn't do a lot of melting of plastic, but it does a bit. But it's really thick and viscous. And if you can see there, it's kind of splooging around in there. This stuff is like water. And I've said it a few times, but you might have missed it. If I'm sticking on, like when I stuck his head on, that's not going to, like, it's not supporting its own weight. So I knew if I put a little bit of the extra thin on there and stuck his head on, held it for a second and took my hand off, it would stay on. I didn't want to use the fat cement because that would be a big blob of glue that would splodge out everywhere and make a mess on the camera. The reason I used the fat glue on his feet, though, is because, I'll show you when I do the next one, I was saying earlier on, this stuff is viscous, but it takes a little while to kick in. So if I glue 2 things together with this, like that, and even before the cement starts working, they'll be stuck together because this gloopy liquid, the surface tension, the viscosity is there holding them together. This is really like water and flashes off very quickly. If I put glue on 2 pieces and go like that with them, they'll just fall apart because it takes 15 to 20 seconds before it starts to weld the plastic together. But it's not thick enough that it's holding the 2 pieces together. So where it's just, a head or something, or gluing a pouch on a leg, I'll use the thin cement because it's cleaner and more efficient. If it's something that needs to hold weight, like an arm or a leg, or I'm gluing somebody to a stand, if I had this dude here and I stuck him to that base with extra thin and then lifted it up, the stand would just fall off. But because I've used this, because it's a thick, viscous liquid, I put the glue on there, I plonk him down, and within seconds I can lift it up. Now, it's not started melting the plastic yet, but it's just the viscosity of the liquid, the thickness, that makes it stick. Like if you have two bits of, you get, get your two fingers and put honey on the end of your finger and go like that, they'll stick together. If you get two drops of water, they won't stick together. Similar principle. So I'll use this where I need two things to hold their own weight, or if I've got two big things to glue together. If I was going to glue these two things together, and I put that on, they'd fall apart. If I put this on and do that, they'd stay together until the glue sets. So if I know it's something that's heavy or needs to be able to hold its own weight, I use this. Otherwise, I use this because this is neat and much more efficient. Without Blade Runner, no gritty, grim stories in sci-fi, and if there hadn't been Akira, who knows what films like The Matrix would have been. True. I think there still were gritty, grim stories. You still have things like Silent Running, which wasn't really gritty, but it wasn't necessarily not grim. It was kind of a little bit grim. But yeah, I know what you mean. The actual comic tells a broader and more awesome story for Akira, says Mayhem. Yes, it does. There we are. Up to do. Of course, I've seen Star Wars. I love Maximilian and K9. Best robots ever, says Speedy Q8. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 are Christmas movies for me, says Chamchi. Yet when we were kids here in the 70s and 80s, Christmas Day was always, for many years in the 1980s and early 80s, they would always show Star Wars on Christmas Day. Christmas Day was Star Wars and The Great Escape, and New Year's Day was Jason and the Argonauts. It's always the way for many, many years here in the UK. Christmas Day, Star Wars, The Great Escape, and New Year's Day, Jason and the Argonauts. And then for that weekend, the week before you went back to school in January, was the Christmas lectures. Traditional British TV. There you go. Fox's dad was Sid James. Yeah. Not quite. That's home times. Time to have Fox on in the car, says Model Maker Mayhem. Drive carefully. Blade Runner still looks fantastic. Chat's jumped. Akira was mind-blowing for me purely because of the animation and work in it. It took a few years before I could absorb and appreciate the depth of the story. Yeah, Akira was like... There's a lot of adult anime before that, but we'd never seen it over here outside of Japan, because maybe they'd seen it in the US, but we didn't get a lot of manga over here. Manga wasn't as big over here as a movement for quite a while. So to us, it was like, wow, really? Thank you. The right tool for the right job. I've only used extra thin. Yeah, extra thin is perfect for, like I say, gluing that head on. I didn't want a big slob of glue, so I'll always try and use extra thin where I can. But if it's two big flat things or two heavy things, I need to just grip together just purely with the viscosity. You'll see again when I do the next figure, which I shall start now. There was always a Bond film in there somewhere too, Fox, and I love the Christmas lectures. I was never into Bond that much. Says Big Box Builder. I came to Manchester Uni because one of my lectures had done the Christmas lectures. Cool. I used to love the Christmas. I can't stand them now because they're just... It's the weird thing. The Christmas lectures then, they're always aimed at kids. Swig of water. For those that don't know, the Royal Institution, every year the Royal Institution has a tradition that they will hold a series of lectures. The Royal Institution is the UK's sort of main science organisation. It's going back hundreds of years. And they used to have a series of lectures every year at the start of the year, New Year's, in the first couple of weeks of the year, for children, or for younger people, younger students, and for children. They were aimed at children. The Royal Institution is like where Faraday and Newton and things, they were heads of the Royal Institution. It was a fusty old scientific, it was the scientific body where you would present your theory and therefore it would be accepted by all the people in top hats. And, oh, yeah, very good, yes. But they do these series of lectures aimed squarely at children. and they have done for hundreds of years. And they were always done as just lectures, but maybe explained a little deeper than as if you're explaining to adults. And Carl Sagan did a series of Christmas lectures, and they weren't necessarily patronising. They were just done as lectures, but not quite as in-depth. Nowadays, it's just like part of the current curriculum. They're gone too far aimed at children. They're kind of a little bit patronising, a little bit funky graphics and simplistic. And no, I preferred it when they were just basically lectures, but they didn't use quite so many big words. But now they're just patronising nonsense. Although last year's did have, I think last year was Dr. Hannah Fry, so we let them off that one. I'm quite happily sit and watch 4 hours of Dr. Hannah Fry. Professor Hannah Fry? Dr. Hannah Fry. Dr. Hannah Fry's dreamy. I like Dr. Hannah Fry. D13 and D12. D13 and D12. D12. D12 is... Come on, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. 13 and 12. 10, 24, 14, 15, 13. There we go, 13. Not that many pieces on here, Fox. It can't be that hard. Professor Alice Roberts and Dr. Hannah Fry, my two crushes at the moment. My two science crushes, I should say. Oh, Dr. Alice Roberts. Oh, Professor Alice Roberts even. Oops. So that's 13. I want D12, which looks like there's no dude here for him. Wait. 10. That doesn't seem to be correct. I appear to be missing a dude. I don't have another sprue. That's kind of weird. Can't be right. Boo. Have I just... I put the wrong head on the wrong damn body. You idiot, Fox. I wonder why that arm didn't fit that well. That one I did earlier. Yeah, it's the wrong head on the wrong damn body. Don't know. That one should have been... I just glued completely the wrong head on completely the wrong torso like a spoon, because I was I think I looked at one part and jumped in. Oh dear. Right, so that goes with him. So this head there therefore goes with I don't know which one. Which one does he go with then? I don't even know who that goes with. D20. Oh no, D24. Have I got that wrong, or have they just mislabeled it and made it hard to... D24. Where did that head come from? The head's right. D24. Crime! Found some flash on a Bandai sprue. What is the world coming to? That's why I didn't fit, Fox, says Champshire. Yeah, it's weird. D12. I must have looked at the head. Oops. Looked at the head. And then when I looked back at the instructions to look at the body number, looked at this one, not that one. I don't know why. I mean, it kind of fitted, just about. It's really weird, but it just kind of fitted. Right, in that case, I might as well do the other guy while I'm here. So D23 is the other one. Oh, wow. Luckily, I found that fairly quickly then. That was kind of lucky that I found it so fast. I don't know. Can't get the staff. This is the difficulty, you see, of doing anything when you're trying to also talk to people and engage you all in witty conversation. It just goes wrong, basically. Hannah Schmanner, Team Alice, back away from the Roberts. Mine, says Paul at Team Inept. Yeah, Paul also has a bit of a crush, bit of a man crush. Not really a man crush, bit of a crush on Professor Alice Roberts. Oh, is it? I always get confused if it's Professor Alice Roberts and Dr. Hannah Fry, or if it's Dr. No, it's Professor Alice Roberts, isn't it? Yeah, Alice Roberts is awesome. She's dreamy. I need to get rid of the nubs off this. That head you incorrectly fitted goes on the one with the big knife. Yeah, it's on him with the funky arm going on. I must have just looked at the instructions, glanced away because you guys are totally distracting me, and this is all your fault. And then I'm going to move this out of the way. And the black thing's just getting in the way. And then looked down at the wrong part of the instructions and not actually twigged because I wasn't paying attention. Always pay attention, folks. That's why you need to pay attention to all the shizzle. Don't be like Fox. Don't try and do this while hosting a 3-hour live television program. Not really a television program, I know. It kind of oversells it a bit, but I like calling it a television program because it sounds all grown up. What do you do for a living? I present television programs on the internet with the talking and the things. Right, that's not going to come off there. You know what? I do need that thing back. I was kind of thinking it gets in the way, and it's, but you know. How is the Games Workshop plastic? I love Games Workshop plastic. I adore it. I have nothing but the greatest respect for Games Workshop's models, most of them. To me, the two best manufacturers out there are the push fit kits, Bandai, the glue kits, Games Workshop. Just for quality. I mean, obviously Games Workshop aren't making, like, you know, Ryefield level, trumpeter level model kits with photo etch and all kinds of nonsense going on, but they're not. That's not what they're there to make. But the quality of their molds, there's a few clunky old kits out there. They're a bit clunky, but they're like 20 years old now. For the most part, the plastic is beautiful. I love it. And it's the most satisfying to clean up on figures and stuff. Oops. Gnarly fingers are quite hard to get nubs off. So who wants to hear about what? Who wants to hear what's fun about working in a kitchen while the sun is burning England to death? Nothing. Nothing is fun about it. Says Raging Modeler. Raging Modeler is raging. At least we can spray your kits outside and have them dry super fast. Says the Beckstorm. Yeah, apart from the problem is when it's like 32 degrees, you can't even spray the kits outside because the paint is literally dry before it hits the model. So then you end up with like paint that just bobbles up or falls off. It's like a rock and a hard place. You want it to be warm so you can spray rattle can jobs, but not too warm because then it just flashes the paint before it even gets anywhere near the model. And although the paint needs to be a bit dry, it's just far too dry. What I don't understand with these poxwalkers is where all the clothes went. It's like, I understand they've been given all the plagues and stuff by Papa Nurgle and they're infected and this, that, and the other, but why does that make all their clothes fall off apart from like one boot? And somehow the belt is still around the waist with a bit of whatever the jacket or coat was, obviously to cover their vanity, but they still have a belt with some pouches and one boot. How does that even work? I nearly force-fed a bacon sandwich to some person. Yes. It's warm, it's hot, and I was sweating from my ears. Ew. Dude, it was 35 degrees and 90% humidity here today, and now I smell like wet dog. That's the beauty here is... are you, if I remember rightly, are you in like the Philippines or Thailand or somewhere? I can't remember, somewhere like that. We don't tend to get it quite so tropical here, so we might occasionally get hot weather. Like this week we had temperatures up to about 34 degrees, which is unheard of in the UK, but it was dry. It was a dry heat. When it gets really hot over here, it tends to be just really hot, not really hot and really humid, not really tropical up here. Their clothes got dissolved from all the acidic grossness. That could be true, but apart from one boot that looks fantastic. The one thing that Games Workshop do really, really well is boots. I don't know why, they just do. They look brilliant. I really want to properly paint my Tempestus Scions purely because of the footwear. The boots look fantastic. I can test a Ryefield model's quality building one right now, so the junk works. Yeah, if you in terms of proper model kits like your armours and vehicles and stuff, military miniatures, Ryefield and Trumpeter are probably two of the best. There's also the AFV club, I think, but I don't know if they're all quite in the same league as Ryefield and Trumpeter. For your armoured vehicles, like Scott at the Junk Works, who builds nothing but all the IDF vehicles ever made. And you know, Games Workshop aren't at that level, but they're not trying to make super realistic military vehicles. They're making little miniatures you're going to play on the tabletop. But even that notwithstanding, the moulding on these figures it puts, you know, some of the figures they make put even the best 1/35 model kit figures to shame. You know, when you look at figures in a Tamiya kit, you realise how absolute garbage Italeri and Revell are at doing figures. I mean, Revell and Italeri are two of the worst model manufacturers for figures in their kits. They're just absolute garbage. They look terrible. They don't know what the human body actually looks like, and they're just not even worth having. Tamiya make them look like garbage, but then Games Workshop kind of make Tamiya's figures look a bit basic. Some of the detail on their miniatures is just incredible. On their figures is incredible. And 1/35 is kind of the nearest sort of scale, really, to sort of Games Workshop scale. I'm almost at enough points from Goblin for £20 off. That 1,000 Suns start collecting box is calling me, says the Raging Modeler. Do it. Do it. Wait, 1,000 Suns, is that the one that all the Egyptian looking blue and yellow stuff? That there's actually no one inside the power armor, they're just dust. Is that 1,000 Suns? Can't remember now. They've got like the very Egyptian looking head flourishes, and they. Is that them? Who said Revell? Says Dad. Yes. I've put 9 micro LEDs in the saucer section of my Enterprise. Now I have to do wire tidy on 18 tangled wires. And then he's got my little custom emoji of a grumpy fox head. Yes. Yeah. Ed Force 1 says Model Maker Mayhem to Dad. Yeah. Yep, that is the 1,000 Suns. Yeah, I like the look of the 1,000 Suns. They're very Egyptian looking, and apparently it's just supposed to be, there's no actual real Space Marine left in there. They're just withered husks. It's all dust and magic and stuff. So basically, they're just armour with a spirit driving them, which means they can't really be killed. I can't imagine there'd be a lot of very interesting fiction around the 1,000 Suns then, because there's nobody in there to be a character. You know, you can't have conversations with 1,000 Suns. Are you still associated with eModels, Fox? Absolutely, they are my sponsor. Absolutely, they are my sponsor. There is a link for eModels. In fact, I forgot to do the. Where is it? It's because it's there. If my button's working. Did my button work? Yes, there you go. Links for eModels and for Goblin Gaming are down in the description below. I'm sponsored by eModels, and they're more your traditional model making supplies. Although they do stock Games Workshop now, they are expecting some more wider. They only just started. Well, they only just started stocking Games Workshop before Chocolate Velociraptor and the entire world caught fire. So they've not got a massive wide amount of stock right now, but they are getting more. They do tell me they will be getting the entire Citadel paint range, and of course. You can accrue points when you order through them. But I am also supported by Goblin Gaming. I have an affiliate link for them in the description below. And they are aimed squarely at the tabletop gaming side of things. So it's tabletop gaming models. They give you 20% off Games Workshop, Malifaux and Conflict 47. They give massive savings on everything else. It's all tabletop stuff. And they sell, like, you know, painting supplies and stuff as well. So they both complement each other. Why don't you guys export to South Korea? I don't actually work for eModels, I'm just sponsored by them. And I don't know if they do or not. They might do. They do export to a lot of places. The only thing they can't send are things like aerosols and some glues and solvents that they're not legally allowed to either export or import. just because of, for example, they can't send aerosols anywhere outside the UK because they'd have to go on a plane, and you don't want aerosols on a plane, pressurized aerosol cans. And other things they don't, he says. Right. I do not know. It may well be that there's no easy or effective shipping solution. Because don't forget, any retailer, they'll tend to use either Royal Mail or various courier services. And it may just be there's no simple, easy solution for them to offer that. But it's always worth just dropping them a line. You never know. It might just be that perhaps they do ship there. They've just never updated their shipping list and it's just not gone on there for some reason. It may well be that there is a good shipping method. I think sometimes what you'll find with retailers is if they don't ship to a certain place, it's either because they're not able to, because there's no shipping solution, or it would not be cost effective. Because I know I've shipped stuff to various countries where somebody's bought one of my builds. I need to wipe my nose again. Somebody's bought one of my builds, and it goes through their customs. And of course, I have to declare the correct value. So if they buy something for like 300 quid, I've got to put it's worth 300 quid in the box. Some countries, the importing costs for the person importing it are so high that it's just not worth it. E-models might send you £100 worth of stuff and you'll pay 70 quid or 70 whatever, your local currency, importing it. Oh, wipe your nose. Or it may just be, it may also be, of course, that they've had issues shipping to that location in the past. Or it may just be they've had no demand from that location and they've never really been asked to ship there. So it's always worth giving them a shout. Drop them an email and just say, hey, I'm in South Korea. I'm looking at ordering some stuff. Will you ship here? It might just be that nobody's ever asked them before and they've never seen a demand. And therefore they've never really thought to add that shipping. Or it may have just been missed off. There have been places in the past where people have said they don't seem to ship there, but when they mailed them, they were like, oh, okay, let me add that for you. And they've just not included it on the shipping list for whatever reason. Usually accidental. But yes, if it's things like aerosol products, so rattle cans, or solvents like glues, they probably can't ship those regardless anyway. Just because there's various legal reasons why they can't ship. A lot of carriers and postal services will not take aerosols or rattle cans or anything, solvents, anything like that. Not the kind of services that a retailer would use. You know, distributors and stuff have their own supply chain, so they can ship all these things around. But retailers, they don't have that. They still have to use FedEx or UPS or DPD or whoever the shipping company is. There might be a reason, but I say it might just be missed off by mistake. So just give them a shout, drop them an email, say I'm looking to get some stuff. Can you ship here? And if they can, they'll tell you. They're good lads. Champy's looking to get some ammo bag made paint, which I guess you can't get in SK very easily. I'm going to open my window now. The guy stopped doing lawn mowing and it's really warm in here. Give me a second, guys. Let me just open my window a bit more. Again. There we go, that's better. Wobbly camera, I know. Sweating me nads off there. So that's that cleaned up a little bit. I don't think there's any major seam lineage on there that I need to worry about. When are you starting the tip jar again? When there's a vaccine. You mean for the Stream Boss battle? The Stream Boss battle relies on me posting stuff to people. Hang on, what am I talking about? Oops, locking the camera. Wait, tip jar. Yeah, the tip jar was for the Stream Boss battle. Which doesn't rely on me posting stuff to people. The Stream Boss battle, I can't get my words out. That means that somebody can. I actually can't remember why I stopped doing it. I know I stopped doing the spinny wheel of giveaways because it's Oh, look at that, I've just snapped the blade off the end. Oh, and it's not snapped off, I can glue it back on. Cool, recovered nicely. Broken the blade off the end there. There we go. Why did I stop doing the stream boss battle? I can't remember now. There was a reason. I've forgotten what it was. It was to do with Chocolate Velociraptor, I think. I can't remember now. Oh, do you know? Oh, this camera. Oh, I have to have it low enough that you can see what I'm doing, but so low that I catch it with my all-seeing helmet of seeing. I can't remember the reason I stopped doing it. It was a tremendous pain in the butt, I'll be honest with you, because it made things very difficult. Because basically it was money that was stored in my PayPal, but I had to make sure that money didn't get used for anything else because it was your money for the stream boss battle. So, and it got really, really hard to discern between money that had come in a stream boss battle, tips that were just tips as tips, money that had come in from super chats and stuff, because obviously things from like super chats and stuff is my income, and money from the stream boss battle is your money that somebody would win, and I can't spend that. It did become a major pain to try and keep them separate, and there was a few times where without any intention of doing it, for one reason or another, money would come out of my PayPal that was supposed to be your tip jar money. And it might be that, you know, I'd place an order with a retailer and for some reason they take the money straight from my PayPal account and not from my bank account. And it just became a nightmare to administer it, basically. It became very impractical. But I will go back to it. There was another reason as well, but I can't remember. That wasn't the main reason. I think the other reason, of course, was that if the winnings, if I remember rightly, I've actually forgotten what I was offering. Oh yes, that was it. That was it as well. The other reason was it was because the Games Workshop were actually closed. Because the whole thing was you win the money and I placed the order for you, and it was through Games Workshop or Goblin Gaming if you were in the UK. And at that point, for a long time, Games Workshop was shut down because of Chocolate Velociraptor. Now they're open again. And I might start bringing it back at some point. But right at the minute, though, it's not practical because the reason I'm not doing it now, I'm really not thinking well today. Let me just take a swig of water. Oh. I actually forgot how they worked. Yes, Games Workshop were closed, so I couldn't. Even if somebody won, they couldn't spend it. And right now, because I'm on lockdown permanently till there's a vaccine, because I'm shielding Mama Fox, until there's a vaccine, all our shopping is online, and it was getting real impractical to balance money going in and out of PayPal and other things without touching the money that was there for the Stream Boss battle, which became a living nightmare because sometimes, like I say, a retailer will take the money from your PayPal account regardless, even if you don't want them to. So other payments that went out here and there, and it just became a nightmare because then I'd have to suddenly put my own money back into the, like there might be £70 in the Stream Boss battle and a payment comes out that takes £50 out of that. I've then got to put my own £50 back in to top it back up again. So yeah, for the moment, while I'm depending on online shopping, it's not practical for me to do that either. So it will come back. Where are we? Why don't you just make a separate PayPal for the battle? Because setting up an actual business PayPal account is a living nightmare. And also it starts to look, there's various reasons why you have to be very careful around fraud and such similar things. And also then it becomes a nightmare for things like the income tax and stuff. So it's not quite as simple as you think it is. It's not a straightforward, I need a head for this guy. No, it is that head. That's, wait a minute. How has he got? This guy's got like 2 left arms. That can't be right. Yeah, that's okay. I thought, hang on, how's he got a right arm or left arm when there's a left arm? He's got 2 left arms. There you go. So yes, It was also an immense pain in the bum trying to make sure that your money didn't get spent inadvertently. And there's quite a few times where I'd find myself having to put my own money, of which I have very little, into the Stream Boss balance because an once a year direct debit payment had come out that I'd forgotten about that came through PayPal, or a retailer took a payment and took it straight from PayPal, or PayPal did it through PayPal rather than from a bank account, or for whatever reason. And that wasn't really practical. So once I'm no longer dependent 100% on online shopping for everything, then I can look at starting it up again, if that makes sense. More Drac, you've actually answered all the questions while I was. I don't know why my brain was like, I can't remember any details about this at all. I kind of blanked it out for the last 6 months. It's been basically so messed up here in the world for the last 6 months that I've kind of forgotten everything. Don't forget, like I said, of course, no matter what happens, until there is a vaccine, me and Mama Fox, we are on lockdown. I cannot take any risks with Mama Fox being 1 billion years old. Until I can get a doctor to stick a needle in her arm and make her safe, I have to assume that she's at risk. So while you guys were running around left and right, I'm still on lockdown for the foreseeable future. Right, remember I was saying about thick glue and thin glue earlier on? I glued all them bits on with the extra thin because they don't need to support the weight. But if I glue him on there with the extra thin now, let's do it. I'll show you. Let's do it. Extra thin, extra thin. Stick him on the base, and there. Doesn't stick. Not going to stay on. It might stay on a little bit, but not that much. If I do it with the thick glue, thick glue on there first, and there you go. So now that's on there. It's not coming off. Now the glue won't be doing its gluing thing. It's purely the viscosity of the liquid between the base and the feet that's holding that on. Which is why I'll then go give it a second. Of course it won't stick if you pull it straight back off the base. That's the thing. I need it. And it's more crucial really when I'm doing, say, an arm on. I don't want to sit there with the arm for 10 or 15 seconds. I want to be able to put the arm on and then just walk away and do something else. So now I can go in with the extra thin after a little bit. Now the extra thin will also melt the plastic, but the extra thin is more powerful than the fat cement, and we'll just do a better job of welding it to the base. So there you go, that's him done. But yeah, so ultimately it became a pain to try and separate out tips and your payments and tips for me and tips for you guys and all the other bits and bobs, and it became a pain. So I will bring it back, but not for the foreseeable future. We'll come back at some point. I like the idea of you being able to win stuff for yourself. That was awesome. But at the same time, it was a right fiddle. Try and make sure your money didn't get spent on my car tax or my Xbox Live subscription or something else that came out. I mean, when I started doing it, I was like, brilliant. As long as I keep an eye on this money going out and that money going out and make sure everything comes out the bank account. And then suddenly, oh, my Xbox Live has come out. Oh, it's just taken 45 quid off the Stream Boss Battle total. I have to go put 45 quid back in of my own money. God damn it. So, yes. It'll come back. It's like I used to do the giveaways. I used to do a prize giveaway. And a lot of people sent me stuff to give away, like kits and things for me to give away on this stream. And I love doing that. But it got to the point where I was spending £70 to £150 a month posting things out to people, and right now that's not something I can afford to do. So I do have a big stash of kits in the front room that people have sent to me to give out to you guys, and I will go back to doing that at some point. Of course, right now I can't do it because I can't go to the post office, but yes. But then again, if you're talking about the tip jar just to be able to give me tips to help me out, then you can do that with Super Chat or become a channel member if you want to do it permanently. If it's just a one-off little thing to help me out, just do a Super Chat. That'd be perfectly fine. Fox seems to be having cognitive issues. The raging model. Summon the tech priest and apothecary. I am really struggling today. Water. I don't know why. Thinking's really hard today. How is your computer running? Hopefully it's still within a good operating temperature. I don't know about the temperature. Look at the temperature, what we're running at today. It's warm today. The temperature is currently... let's have a look and see. Temperature is currently barely hitting 40 degrees centigrade. Barely. Now, today the temperature is, according to my telephone, which is only a rough guide, it's about 19 degrees. That's not 10 degrees cooler than yesterday. Yeah, I was running a live stream yesterday with a game going, and that was pushing my temperature to about 50 degrees. So today, with just this stream and no video game encoding or anything, it's a bit cooler. But yeah, it's also, the other thing is, I can barely hear it. Because if you don't know what happened, my streams kept falling over because my computer was overheating and getting to 100 degrees and just gone. The CPU was at 100 degrees and the whole thing fell over. I cleaned it out yesterday morning. I got the Hoover to it, and there was like about an inch of crud and dust on top of the heatsink for the CPU, the heatsink and the fan. Cleaned all that off, and now it's whisper quiet. I mean, it's not whisper quiet, but I can't hear it. And normally when if I'd be doing this stream, the fan would be on full whack and it'd be dead loud, and you pick it up in the microphone. And whenever I do voiceovers, you can hear the fan in the background. Now it's whisper quiet, so I just need to make sure I keep hoovering it out every now and then until the day I get until I get my mate to build me a better PC. This one will. I thought I was going to have to just somehow figure out a new PC at some point, or stop streaming on hot days, but I think I've sorted it now, so we should be all right. I think we'll be just fine. What we're doing? What was your day job before YouTube? Asks Champchi. Paul Di Tommaso is in. Hey, Paul. What was my day job before I did this? Right before I started doing this, I was working for a friend of mine who ran a detailing business, both detailing cars and selling detailing products. I say friend, not anymore a friend. Various things happened, and that friendship came to an end. Let's just leave it at that. So yeah, so I stopped working there and decided to make a go of this instead. But that was only for a few years. Before that, D11 and D10. Before that, I spent 20 years, 22 years working in call centres, mostly for telecoms companies, which was soul destroying. With a couple of exceptions, I spent a few years working for the driver and vehicle licensing agency, booking driving tests. That was all right. It was a bit of a laugh working there because it was just kind of really relaxed. Most of it was spent working for various cable companies and telecoms companies. I worked for 9X. I worked for NTL. I worked for Mercury. I worked for Cable and Wireless, but that was all in the same company. They just all the takeovers. I sat at the same desk and worked for like 6 different companies. I got pissed. That was soul destroying. Then they became Virgin just before I left. I worked for various other small telecom companies. I did a few years worked for a social care company, which is a social alarm company where you have like social housing where people live in a warden managed house, and they have pull cords if they fall, like an old people's home, for example, or vulnerable people home. If they fall or need assistance, they pull a cord. The cord will go through to a call centre, and that'll be us. And we then arrange help or whatever needed. I enjoyed that job. That was good. That was because you're looking after people. You're looking after old people. Helping them out, calling ambulances and having a chat with them. I enjoyed that. Did that for a few years. I did some work in the property markets, again, call centre work, for a company that did calls handling for estate agents. Which one was it now? It was some Ponzi Southern estate agent from London called Hamptons, I think it was. Hamptons, I think they were called. They did call handling for Hamptons. It was basically spending all day dealing with very affluent southern ponces who were all just despicable, all of them. All their customers were just horrible people. And then in the same company, we also... the same company also had a division called Home Track, which was a company that did property market analysis. Now, keep in mind, I had no interest in the property market whatsoever. I couldn't give a crap about the property market, but it was a job. And I worked there for a few years, doing property market nonsense. That was all those jobs. Of all those jobs I had, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, which was 1990 to 1995, that was the most fun because it was a civil service job where there was no natural competition. You couldn't go to the private sector for your driving test. So they didn't care what we wore. They didn't care what we... As long as the work got done, they really didn't care. And what we would do is we'd have 120 driving test booking sheets in the morning that we had to book in on this system. System of dumb terminals connected to the DVLA in Swansea. It was just a computer, but with no computer. It was just a terminal on the keyboard. And the beauty of it was, that was your allocation for the day. You'd do them in an hour. You'd book 120 driving tests in an hour. You call it the power hour. You just go hammer through them. You've booked in your driving tests. Brilliant. And then you just sit and man the phones for the rest of the day, and you might take 12 calls all day. People phoning up about the driving test, and it might take 12 calls. It was the best. In a lot of ways, that was the best job ever, because there was very little actual job to do. You larked about. But at the same time, it was the early 90s. The pay was terrible. And of course, I didn't know any better, so I hated it. If I knew then what I know now, I would have seen it as the best job ever, because there was very little work to do and you're given a lot of freedom. But, hey, I didn't know any better. Grass is always greener. It's a bit like when you're at primary school. When you're at primary school, it's the worst thing in the world because it's school. It's boring. You don't want to go to school. I want to play with my friends and play with my toys. Mum, I've got a sore throat. I don't feel very well. All that kind of stuff. You try and bunk off school because you hate it. It's only when you have to then go and get a job later on, you realise that a 9 till 3 day, in at 9, go home at 3:30, where you were basically learning a little bit and then sticking past the tubes to card all day and messing about, was the best thing ever. If I could go back and go to primary school now with all the knowledge about what having a job is like, primary school, 6-hour day. Having a job, 12-hour day. No. If I could go back to primary school now and armed with all the knowledge of my adult life, it would be the best thing ever. Wait, you want me to listen to the teacher talk about, I don't know, Henry VIII for half an hour, and then I get to play with stickle bricks? I'll do that. I'll be up for that. So yeah, like 25 years of work, 20 years of mostly mindless call centre jobs. And the one thing you learn doing mindless call centre jobs, especially for telecom companies, is that most people are morons. Especially if you're doing business-to-business telecoms. Oh, dear Lord. That was not great. One of the companies I worked for, I won't mention any names here for the bad ones, but one of the companies I worked for sold business telecoms to businesses. Shops and stuff like that. Not like to multi-million-pound companies, but they might have tried. But mostly it was like telephone and internet services to shops and small businesses and things like that. And dear God, some of the customers, do you know? I mean, there was the occasional intelligent one, but most of them were morons. And it's like, how the hell are you even running a business if you can't grasp basic concepts? Hello, Mama Fox.
Hello.
And, it's like, for some reason, the worst were hairdressers. Oh, dear Lord. Hairdresser phones up with a fault. You knew when people took a call from a hairdresser with a telephone fault or an internet fault, because you just see them you would physically see them sag in their chair, and they'd go, oh. And we had this routine that if you took a call from a hairdressing salon with a fault, you'd just put your arm up in the air and everybody would be like, oh, yeah, we know he's got a hairdresser. That's how you knew not to talk to someone for the next 4 hours. Because for some reason, I don't know, just the most basic things, you just... I don't... The number of times... Basically, if you... Especially business to business. If you've got a problem with your telephone, for example, in the UK here, normal practice is that the customer does some basic checks at their end to make sure it's not their equipment that's faulty. Because if you call out the OpenReach engineer to fix your phone line and the OpenReach engineer says, yeah, it's the phone handset that was broken, that's £150 call out charge because you've wasted the OpenReach engineer's time because it was your handset that you bought from Argos that wasn't working, which is nothing to do with the OpenReach engineer, and that's an hour of his time wasted. Thank you very much. And things like that. It could be, damage to some other equipment at your end. There were some basic checks to do to make sure it wasn't anything you were going to get charged for. I'm basically saying, I've got some things for you to do. I don't want you to get charged for the engineer coming out. So here's some things you can check. And if it's any of these things, then you need to get it fixed yourself. Like if it's the handset that's broken, if your batteries run out on the phone handset, if it's your phone socket's been knocked off the wall by a chod and you need to just get somebody to come and fix that for £5 in the back pocket, you know what I mean? But the moment you say to avoid any unnecessary costs, they just go off on one because they don't actually understand that you're trying to help them. I'm not paying for this if it's... I said, no, you're not going to pay for it anyway. If it's a problem with the phone line that OpenReach actually own and maintain, you'll be fine. If it's a problem with your handset that you bought from Argos, you couldn't get them to understand that. And then they'd be shouting. It really just gave me a deep disdain for small hairdressing salons in the UK. I don't know. But yeah, 99.9% of telecoms calls, you'd be dealing with morons. Because the intelligent people wouldn't necessarily need to call up to discuss their bill. That's the thing. A lot of it was billing inquiries. And you can guarantee, if you're dealing with billing inquiries, 99% of the callers are going to be morons. Because the ones that aren't morons actually understand their phone bill quite easily, thank you, and don't need to call. I swear I had somebody call once and he phoned up and he said, hi, I've got my phone bill. Oh yes, he said, yeah, I just wondered, it says here charges for calls made. Yeah, what's that for? I said, that's charges for the calls you've made on your phone. He went, oh, okay, thanks a lot, bye. And I just sat there like, yeah, so, intelligent people, they don't normally need to call the telecoms company because they just look at the bill and go, yeah, that makes sense, and they just pay it. I had somebody phone at once who had a phone bill for like £3,500. And it was like, I very rarely use the phone. And there are genuine reasons why, an issue may have occurred that gives you a big phone bill, and we just write that off. But in this case, looking at the calls, I said, okay, I'm seeing a handful of calls on your bills to various numbers. Do you recognise this number and this number? Yeah, I know what those numbers are, that's fine. Okay, that's about like £1.50 a month. The other like £2,978 is calls to one number. Here is the number, and the calls can go for 12 hours. What is that number? And he went, oh, that's my internet dial-up. I'm like, this is 2011. What? He said, oh, yes, it's the dial-up number. I said, well, with dial-up, you're paying for the phone call. He went, oh, I didn't realise that. Oh, okay. I wondered what that was. I wondered if I was paying. I said, yeah, it's a phone call through a modem. All right. I said, have you ever thought about, like getting, if you're on, this is a business room, remember, if you're running your business on dial-up, dear Lord, I don't even know how. If you're running your business with dial-up broadband, dial-up internet, have you ever thought about saving yourself £3,000 a month and just getting broadband for like 15 quid a month. Because he said he needs the computer connected 24 hours a day. And I'm like, you never thought about going for broadband? And he went, oh, no, I don't want broadband. It's too fast. And I'm like, what? And if you know my history, if you know on my website, I'm on modelmaking.guru, I used to have an online webcomic called The Void Spikes, and that's now long gone, but I've archived all the comic strips on modelmakingguru.com or modelmaking.guru. There's a page on my website, there's a menu option called The Void Spikes, and all the comic strips are archived there. And there's actually a comic strip series, like a 2 or 3 strip arc, in which I break my brain. And I have to go in for emergency surgery because my brain's broken. And it actually comes from that conversation. Because following that conversation, I put the phone down and I just stared at my colleague across the desk who was on the other side of my computer. And I'm like, earlier on in this stream where I couldn't speak, it's like I was going, he just would, I don't, what, And I explained it to him, and for about 10 minutes, I'm just sat there going, what? It's too fast. I don't understand your broadband. I don't get it. It truly broke me. I had to go out and have a cigarette. I'm like, I don't understand what that man's talking about. He'd rather pay thousands of pounds a month for dial-up on a 56k modem than have broadband at £14 a month because it's too fast. No, I want to wait half an hour for this GIF to download. What? So yeah, that actually spawned an entire comic strip. And the reason that comic strip died, that Avoid Spikes comic strip series died, was because I left that job. And a lot of the stories and strip ideas came from either things that happened in that job or conversations I had with my colleagues outside at break time. Just silly stuff. So yeah, it's bizarre. Anyway, let's have a look at chat. I'll get this guy sorted out. Fox needs an air conditioning unit to keep the room cool, says Paul. I would love one, but I don't want to pay the bills for one. We're in the UK. We don't do air conditioning. We need it once or twice a year. Some people have said that before, and it's like, in the UK, you might be lucky if you get in total about 14 days worth of nice hot weather in total across the whole year. Other than that, it's miserable and cold and damp. So there's absolutely no point at all for air conditioning when you can just open a window or keep the window and curtains closed. We don't have the climate for air conditioning permanently. Chamchi says, haha, I did Vodafone. Soul crushing was the term we used. Yeah. It's not the company that sold this drawing, it's the customers who can't explain their issue correctly. Vodafone retail here, says Mayhem. Yeah. It's more the customers who can't understand simple concepts like what's your name? Ted needs an AC unit as well for his workspace in the attic. Now, Ted does need an air conditioning because he's in the loft of his house, and that will always be hot because all the heat rises to his loft. So he'll even need an air conditioning unit in the winter. Whereas here where I am, the only reason it gets warm in here sometimes is because the window between 9 a.m. and 3 in the afternoon, this window gets all the sun in this room. But if I keep the window closed and the curtains closed, it's not so bad. But when I was then turning on my PC with its covered up CPU covered in crud that was then getting to 100 degrees, that was really warming the room up. Now I've cleaned it all off and the computer's not running as hot. This room doesn't get as warm now. It's more just the sun outside that makes it warm. In fact, right now it's having all the lights on that makes it really warm. I went to Swansea Met and worked in conduit, says Chamchi. I don't know what conduit is, or Swansea Met. For 11 years, I worked for a government call centre for certain establishments, and I learned that people and government officials were thick as a bag of hammers. Yeah, pretty much. Having worked in retail for nearly 20 years and 15 of them in mobile telecoms for Phones For You, then Vodafone, I can attest that the majority of people make too short planks look intelligent. Absolutely. Dan says, I get those in my job too. I speak to medical professionals who don't seem to have the capacity to function in day-to-day life. I regularly think, how did you get a medical degree? Absolutely. I mean, there were some smart customers I used to deal with. I spoke to Whispering Bob Harris once because his company had phones from our company. Whispering Bob Harris was awesome. He just sounds exactly like Whispering Bob Harris because it was Whispering Bob Harris. on the phone. It's like, I've just placed a phone call to 1978 Old Grey Whistle Test. It's fantastic. And I was like, I said, I don't mean to be rude, but are you the Bob Harris? He went, yeah. I went, cool. He went, you know who I am? I said, yeah. He went, wow, that's the first person in 30 years that said that. Because nobody knew who he was, of course. I like the fact that people are calling Bitsbox Builder B cubed. As a current worker in a prominent telecoms company, I cannot comment on any such matters because I could get sacked. Modraka says, remember to click the like button. Yes, please do. Click the thumbs up button underneath the video if you've enjoyed it. It helps this video get listed better in the listings when people do a search for stuff, and helps me get traffic to this and therefore pay the bills. If you don't like it, of course, you are more than welcome to hit the thumbs down button. I'm not going to stop you from doing that, but I'll hate you forever. I would prefer faster broadband, but like, wow, says Eon's car. Yeah, I mean, this guy was on 56k dial-up 24 hours a day for his whatever it was connected. We had one guy phone at once, absolutely furious because we were costing his business money because his broadband was off. And which is a fine complaint. You know, if your broadband falls off and it's your broadband-based business, then obviously we'll have to look into getting it fixed ASAP and look into compensation. However, he was running they did do some residential services. He was running a business on a residential broadband package, so we don't care, because it's a residential package. But also, he quite happily told me he was downloading movies and TV series to then sell on the black market. And I'm like, hang on, so you're using a residential package broadband service at £14 a month to do business, which is normally a business broadband package at £60 a month, and you're also doing legal stuff on it. Right. I'll be putting a request in to terminate your broadband supply. Yeah, his broadband supply went off within an hour, and he was not allowed back on this. Like, you don't phone up and complain that you're doing illegal stuff on your residential broadband as a business. Some people are so flipping stupid. I nearly swore then. But yeah, I don't know. Beck Storm says, you don't, with dial-up, you get, with broadband, you don't get to, hang on, I need to clear my throat, one sec. Sorry about that. Downside of talking for 3 hours non-stop. Beck Storm says, on broadband, it's moved. You don't get to enjoy downloading a lewd picture on the internet, otherwise that slowly loading image just adds to the anticipation. I vaguely remember, in fact I strongly remember when I had this conversation with him and I was telling to my colleagues saying, this guy, and I was joking saying, what do you want, he wants the broadband. I'll start all that again in English. When I was talking to my colleagues and I was saying he really wants the images to download that slowly in my head, I had that clip from The Simpsons where the comic book guy's trying to download a picture of naked Janeway and it stops just below the neck. I had that image in my head. It's like, no, I want to have slow internet connection. What? It's true, you don't get the anticipation. But yeah. Oh, sniffly nose. Sorry, folks. Oh. In other news, I found an archive of all the old GameSpot Hotspot podcasts the other day, and it took me all the way back to 2006 and 7 when I had dial-up, and it's like you'd spend an hour downloading a half an hour, 45-minute podcast to listen to it afterwards. Oh dear. Reggie Modeler says, I work for an HMRC call centre. A call called internally. I answered switchboard. She goes, can you put me through to this number? I point at it's the number she's called from. Oh dear. He says 1 of 3. She is fully aware of this. I politely explain that if I put her through, it will come back busy. She again knows this. I inquire if it's on diver, if there's an issue. She goes, no, I want to see who picks up. She gets a bit nasty and goes off. So I'm like, fine, I'll put you through. It's busy, I say. Would you like to hold? Yes. 30 minutes she held for. She wanted to be put through to her own number. I don't know. And I had a lady once who, there were a few nuisance callers, like calls that people that called in, and they were just weird customers that you'd never get anywhere with. And we had one lady called Mrs. Lemon, who was a nightmare because she was just weird. And she'd always refuse to pay her bills, and there'd be some weird made-up nonsense. I think we cut her off in the end, but she went on for months. And whoever got the call would be like, they hold the hand up and be like, Mrs. Lemon call. And she once said she refused to pay the bills for all the phone calls. What was it? All the calls were to one number, which was her friend. I didn't make any of all those calls to my friend because I put the phone in the airing cupboard out of the way. Okay. Yeah. I think she was a few loaves short of a debt of a bakery. On the subject of smarts, Neil deGrasse Tyson in an interview was talking about his Mont Blanc Meisterstück. He was surprised to discover that it meant masterpiece and thought it was something stick. Smart doesn't mean smart. Oh, wait. Hang on, confused now. Some chat going on. Your photos on Facebook have a bad white balance, by the way, he says to Dad. And then he says, oh no, wrong person. Eon's Car says, Minions is on ITV2 and I heard my mum saying banana. I responded banana back. We did the hand up thing for the President of the UK and Psychic Vampire Man. Yeah, sounds about right. But there's always like the moron customers, and you'd have a few special moron customers that were just beyond normal. You'd be like, how do these people even exist? I don't even... Right, how's this arm gone to this dude then? Let's get some more work done. You heartless monster. Everyone knows about the airing cupboard discount. Yeah, sometimes residential telecoms customers are even worse than business customers. Not all the time, but sometimes. Right, this needs to go on in a particular way, like that. There we go, lovely. Yeah, you see, I don't know if you'll see, but like the little gap there between the two parts is nicely hidden by some of these pustules and musculature. Look at the muscularity! Hidden by some of the musculature. But where it isn't, of course, what I can do is just be a bit generous with the glue. A bit more generous than I normally would be, so I'm making a bit of a mess. Now, if this was a vehicle, I'd be worried about getting splodges of glue everywhere. Because it's a body, it's a flesh body. A bit more glue than normal, and then just squish it down. A little bit of that glue and melted plastic will squidge out the gap. Just a tiny amount. And there. Once that's primed, you won't even see that gap. And that's why I think they've done a real good job with some of these guys. If this was a Revell kit, you'd have the person split down the middle in two halves. I never understood that. So yeah, they've done a really good job with hiding the gaps and joins on these dudes. Chamshi, will you do some painting soon? I am on issue... This is issue 63. I've got up to issue 80 to build. And I want to get everything built before I start painting. So I'm not going to be painting these any time before probably the end of this year, I would suspect. Because I only do this on a Sunday, this Warhammer Conquest stuff. So I've done some of the Warhammer Conquest already. But I'm going to strip all the paint off those because I was following the magazine. The magazine guide is rubbish. It doesn't give you the best paint job. I'm going to paint them all properly. So, yes, I will be doing proper full video painting of these. I won't be doing these painting on live stream. Because I need to do proper tutorials on how to paint them all. Once I've done all these, of course, then it begs the question, what am I going to move on to for Warhammer Sunday? And I'm not really sure, to be perfectly honest. I'll find something to build. I'm much more comfortable building on this stream than painting, because painting's quite tricky for me. Especially figures, because I have to get up close and personal with my bad eyesight. Painting a tank and stuff isn't so bad, but painting a dude... Oops. Okay, blow on that. So you see, like I say, the glue's keeping him on. He's not coming off. If I'd done that with extra thin, I'd have to hold it for 5 minutes, and then there's no point. Now, you can't put the extra thin on straight away. Because if I put the extra thin on the moment I've put the fat glue on, it'll just dissolve the fat glue away, and it'll just lose its grip again. So give it a few seconds, blow on it if you need to. Raging Modeler, will you get a I'll start that again. Raging Modeler says, get a Thunderhawk after this. A, I can't afford one, and B, I'm not that keen on resin. I hate resin. I do have a Macarius Vanquisher, and I do have the Malcador Infernus Forge World tanks to build. And I hate resin. I really hate resin, but they look fairly straightforward. They're nice big chunky chunks. They're just like... And if there is any correction to do, it's probably going to be fairly, fairly straightforward. And swig of water, hang on. So I am looking at enjoying those. But something like the Thunderhawk, no, because anything where I need to add like reinforcements and stuff, no. What are the problems with resin, says Champchi? It's carcinogenic to inhale. You have to wear masks or wet sand. It's often a nightmare to work with because you have to reshape parts because they come warped. There's a lot of filling to do because there's lots of air bubbles and things. Often, even on good quality ones, there's filling and fixing to do. Often parts don't fit, especially Warhammer kits. Often parts don't quite fit because for some reason one is slightly too small or one is slightly too big. And the other thing, of course, is if you've got two massive pieces of resin and they've got to have some support to them, you have to start putting like metal rods and stuff in there to hold them in place. With the tank, it's not so bad. It's just glue it all together. It's a block. With like the Thunderhawks, like an aircraft. No, I'm not really. And the other thing, of course, is you have to use super glue. And I hate using super glue because super glue is messy as anything. Although I have started using thin super glue with a little applicator, which is quite good. But I don't like using super glue. I've never tried epoxy glue, but it's just messy. It's easy if you know what you're doing, and I've just never liked resin because it's too much like hard work. I'm not a builder. I've said this before. I'm not a builder. I'm a painter. I like plastic because I can cut all the parts out, glue them together, and then I can do the painting. With resin, I would have to spend as much time building, fixing, adjusting, filling things in, correcting things, reshaping them, making gaps disappear, making gaps appear, remodeling bits that have not molded properly. That's not why I'm in this hobby. I don't enjoy the building at all. I have no interest in complicated builds. I want to just slap it all together and then get the paint on it. I have built some resin in my time. You know, a little resin figures. They're not so bad. You know, I built some of the Warhammer. I built some of the Fallout Wasteland Warfare minis from Modiphius. They sent me some to build, and they were actually quite good. They were beautiful, and they were dead simple to build, and it wasn't so bad. So probably figures, little mini figures like these aren't that bad. If these were resin, there'd still be some correction and fixing to do, and even then it'd probably be a bit too much because I hate the building part. I don't enjoy building at all. I'm all about the painting. So if you say to me, you can cut it off the sprue, get rid of the seam line, stick it together, done. But if you say to me, you can cut it off the resin key, and then you've got to fill in all the little holes, and then you've got to reshape it because it's gone a bit warped, and then you've got to do these three other things, and then when you stick it together, there'll be a big gap, and you've got to fix that gap, and then of course you've got to use super glue, which is really messy and eventually will break down and fall apart. You've got to pin all the parts together. I've already tuned out by that point. I've already walked away. So now I did buy myself the what's the big tank? The I forgot what it's called. I've just mentioned it a minute ago. Macarius Vanquisher. I did get myself the Macarius Vanquisher because I watched Leaky Cheesy channel and he's done a few tank builds. He's doing like the Horus Heresy stuff. And they don't look so bad. There's still stuff to do, but I think it's stuff I can cope with. It won't be so much that I'm going to hate the build part of the process. And George, very kindly, as a Secret Santa gift, got me the Malcador Infernus, which again is along the same lines. It looks fairly straightforward. It looks like whatever remedial work there will need to be done is probably fairly straightforward. I can probably cope with it. And it's not going to need lots of reinforcing and extra structures added and stuff like that. But also because they do look just kick-ass, those two tanks. And eventually I want to build up a Death Guard force of some sort. So, and not Death Guard, a Death Korps Krieg force maybe. But even if not, they just look like really cool sort of World War I, World War II tanks, which looks great. So there's that level of interest as well. And I might be wrong. I might hate the build completely. I might get them. I mean, I might try to build them and hate every minute of it. That may happen, but we'll wait and see. But you know, other than that, it's quite rare for me that I've done that, because normally I would avoid resin like the plague, just because I'm a painter and I don't generally enjoy the building process. I mean, this kind of building process, it's all right. I just kind of find it tedious because I'm not being creative at all. I'm just cleaning up and sticking it together. It's kind of boring, but at least, even though it's boring for me, it's not challenging. I'm not having to panic because I've got to suddenly fill 13 things with filler, or, you know, do lots of other bits and bobs. I can just get it all together. And if there is a little bit of filling to do, it's minimal. But, you know, as somebody who doesn't enjoy the build part of the process, suddenly introducing a build process that's 10 times as complicated is not going to do me any favours. Mayhem says, told you, Fox, I'll happily build the Kriegers for you. I may take you up on that. It requires me to actually buy the Kriegers first, though. Yeah. We'll see. I've not even made a usable army of any kind yet, so to sit here and say, I'm going to have a death core of Krieg army. Yeah. It may well be that what I do is just go on eBay and buy people's squads of Krieg that they've already built and primed, because some people just build them and sell them. Some people have them built and maybe they've got a coat of primer and that's it. And they sell them for about the same price as the pack, or maybe a little bit cheaper. And you know what? I can buy them, strip them, repaint them. And therefore I've not got the hassle. I did have a squad of 10 that Paul will tell you, he takes the mickey at me all the time. Squad of 10 Deathcore Krieg dudes that I tried to build, but the arms gave me a nightmare, because they're not marked. And you don't know which left arm goes with which right arm, and which pair of arms go with which torso. So in the end, I had one or two where I glued the wrong arms together, and I gave up and put them back in the bag. It was like doing that jigsaw where every it's like a 10,000 part jigsaw, and it's a ginormous photograph of beans. Yeah, good luck with that. It was like that. Like I've got 10 left arms, 10 right arms, and 10 torsos, and I've got some really grainy, unclear photographs that show that show 4 of the 10 figures from one angle, and from that I'm supposed to deduce which arms go with which torsos. No, yeah, I gave up. And I hate to, you know, I'm not really keen on not just buying the thing from Forge World or GW and making it myself. But again, not being a builder, that was that building process for those made me very angry, and I don't like being angry in this hobby, so it may well be that I just buy them pre-made rather than buying them as a kit from Forge World. Because I'm in this for fun. I'm not in this to be stressed out. The arms. Oh God, the arms comedy. Yeah. I made the first one. It was like, I put the first Krieger together. It's like, that was great fun. He went together really nicely. It looks fantastic. That wasn't so bad. I did the second one, and it was like, okay, there was a bit of a struggle getting the arms to fit on properly, but it worked. There's a bit of a gap. I'll need to fill it in later. Then I got to the third one. I'm like, hang on a minute. This arm I put on the first one looks vaguely like the arm in the instructions. Yeah, no. It was the wrong one. And then from that point, I'd already used some of the wrong arms, and there's no going back. So, and it's the problem is the instructions. It's not like normal instructions. They literally have, if you open the instructions for the Death Corps, it's a squad of 10 firing. There's basically a photograph of, I think, 4 or 5 of the minis, a one pose, grainy black and white photograph of 5 of them. There's 10 figures, and virtually no instructions. I've got to look at a figure in one particular pose. Some of them is like, you can see the right arm, but not the left arm. And it's like, well, which left arm do I want? Yeah, so I think we'll be buying them pre-assembled. You find them on eBay. A lot of people will buy them and build them and then prime them and never paint them. And then they just sell them off because they've played them a few times and they've grown up at the hobby or whatever. And I do strongly advise, if you're wanting to learn how to paint, if you're learning how to paint, it can be good fun to go onto eBay and buy a terrible Warhammer model that somebody's absolutely butchered for you to repaint, because it's a good test pig then. Because I've got a series coming up later this year, hopefully, assuming I ever finish the Falcon, called Tabletop Trauma Center. And the idea is I'll be repainting disastrous things. Sorry, knocking the camera. I'll be repainting disasters that I've got from eBay. And the first one I've got is a true example of disastrous paint job that I can hopefully recover. Because it's terrible. But I shall strip it and repaint it. But it was like, it was 20 quid. And the kit it is normally about 45 quid, or 35 quid. In fact, I tell a lie. The kit, I won't reveal it, but if any YouTube channel members, by the way, can see a teaser video for this series, and patrons, there is a members-only playlist on this very channel. If you go to my channel homepage and click on playlists, and then click on created playlists, for some reason it doesn't show you all the playlists. There is a members-only playlist, and there is a teaser video for Tabletop Trauma Center in there that members can see. But yes, so the kit I've got is a kit that normally costs you about 35 quid, and I picked up for like 15. And I'm going to strip it down and repaint it. So it's always fun to do that. If you want a cheap test pig, just go onto eBay and pick yourself up a knackered old, I don't know, Rhino or Lehman Russ or whatever vehicle. If you're doing a vehicle, if you're doing minis, there'll be somebody selling a really, really, really badly painted squad of Space Marines for like a tenner. And just go and pick them up. There's some absolute disasters on there. There's some absolutely disastrous paint jobs out there. They're hilarious in their badness. But all it needs, as long as it's not badly made, all it needs is a coat of a dip in some Dettol. And then you can repaint it to your heart's to go. I know that Dad, over at Scaly Models, he bought something. I think it was Dad that bought something that was an absolute junker. It might have been like one of the little flying Space Marine things. Absolute junker. It had been so badly painted. He just stripped it down and repainted it. And for pennies, he got himself a decent Warhammer model. It was great. I need to see this TTCC, Tabletop Trauma Center. Candygram for Mongo says similar. It's as soon as I can get the Falcon finished, which whenever the hell that will be, that's the next thing we're going to do. Once the Falcon's done, it'll be time to start filming Tabletop Trauma Center. I say there is a teaser video on there. Patrons, if you go onto the Patreon, you have to kind of have a hunt around for it because it's in there somewhere in one of the posts. If you're a YouTube channel member, like I say, just go to my channel homepage, click on playlists, and then click on created channels. You have to. It doesn't filter them down. You have to click on created playlists. It won't show you everything by default because YouTube's a bit rubbish like that. Osric 9000 says the Meng 135th Schmerz rocket launch has about 1,400 parts and they all fit. Yeah, Meng can be quite good. Well, apparently, it's actually pronounced Meng, not Meng. It's Chinese. But it just doesn't sound right to call them the Meng. Meng. It just sounds weird to our Western sensibilities. Pronounce it that way. Okay, so I like this guy. This guy's got a great big great. I do love these great coats that they have in Warhammer. He's got this great big flowy great coat, but no pants. I don't quite get how that works. Like the other guy's completely naked apart from one boot. This guy's all his clothes have vanished apart from this great coat. So his pestilence and horribleness has dissolved all his clothing apart from a great coat. Now there is a bit of a gap down there, down the sides of great coats where the two front bits have attached. But on a lot of these minis where they've got great coats and things like that, it actually takes the place of like an actual seam in the jacket. So I could fill that in if I wanted to. Oops. I could fill that in if I wanted to, but you kind of get away with it as an actual seam in the jacket. Go and look at a real greatcoat. There's a big seam down the middle under the armpit. That's not quite under the armpit, but you kind of get away with it. And I think it's intended to be there because it's a very nice, neat, chisel-edged seam. So you can get away with that, I think. And this arm needs to have the hammer on it. It's hammer time, which I will glue on once I've glued him onto the base, I think. I'll get him onto the base first. Yep, 'twas me, says Dad at Scaling Models. Yeah. It was like a... What's that little flying thing that the Space Marines have? The Raven Wing or the Space Wing Hawk Space Marine Space thing. I don't know. But it can be quite good fun, picking up some absolute junker off eBay and repainting it before you go out and buy the real thing to paint, if you're learning. Because at the end of the day, if you've got a little junker thing like that, I often say to people, go and get a cheap, crappy model to practice your painting on. I've had people say to me, I've just bought the £300 1999 Eagle Transporter, I've just bought the £300 Millennium Falcon, or I've just bought some other expensive kit. But it's the first time I've ever painted something. Okay, you don't want to start painting that then, you want to do some practice first. So, you know, go to your local hobby store or go online to eModels or wherever and get something that costs you like a £5 or a £10 just to practice. That's your test pig. Or if you're doing Warhammer, then it's go onto eBay and get yourself a Warhammer kit that's similar to what you want to build, that somebody's made an absolute arse of when they've painted it. Strip it in Dettol, paint it yourself, and then you can strip it and paint it as many times as you want. That can be your test pig. And I do recommend things like good test pigs to test lots of techniques. You want something reasonably big, if you're not figures, but if you want something reasonably big and easy to paint, you want a Lehman Russ or a Rhino, because they're just boxes and they're nice. You can try different techniques. You can try dry brushing and washes and filters and all the different. They're big enough you can have lots of fun. And then when you've done enough, when you get one, you can strip it back and it's fresh again for more test pigging. I'm back. I went to a local sub shop where I got a turkey club sandwich with mac and cheese. Oh, that's too many good things all at the same time. I feel unhappy that I do not have access to this now. Right, this needs to go like that on the arm. Oh, I need to put some thin glue on there, don't I? That's the wrong glue. So yeah, I don't know when that will start. I say I need to finish the Falcon first, and as you can imagine, because of the last few weeks with this infection and stuff, the Falcon's kind of not got very far. The cockpit is done. The interior. All I've got to do now is basically paint the exterior and do the final assembly, which is not a small task. I've tested the lighting out. The lighting works. A paint test pig for me is the Warhammer Baneblade. Yeah, that's £90 worth of a model kit there. So if you're going to spend, there's no point spending £90 on a Baneblade kit to then use it as a test pig, because that's like a lot of money when you can go on eBay and find some absolute tragic Rhino or Lehman Russ that somebody's painted with potato halves on their elbow that they're selling for like 15 quid, maybe 20 quid, that you can then strip off and then paint that to your heart's content. I wouldn't spend a fortune on something as a test pig. I picked one for $15. Where did you get a Warhammer, a Baneblade for $15? That's like 7 quid. That's like at least not even 10% of the actual value. In that case, yeah, that's a great test pig for a tenner. Holy cow. Wish I had a Baneblade for $15. That's insane. Insane in the membrane. Right, now, remember what we were saying about the glues? Thin glue. No good for load bearing. This arm attaches via the hand. If I apply that, attach that with extra thin, it's not even going to stay on there for a second. So what I'm going to do, get myself the fat glue. Get a little bit of the fat glue. Also comes with a big fat brush, which makes subtle application difficult. Touch of the fat glue. We'll get the hand on there. Oop, we'll miss, because of course we will. Get the hand on there. We'll hold it in place for just a second. Give it a blow. That's on there. If I did that with extra thin, that wouldn't stay on there. Now, it still would need good 5 or 10 minutes to cure properly. What I'm going to do is give it a second just to stick. Now, that's only being held on there at the moment because of the thick viscous liquid. Eventually, that will start to melt the plastic and it'll bond even more. Now, there is also it looks like there's an anchor point on the ankle of his foot, what, the ankle of his face. It looks like there's an anchor point for it on the ankle as well, but there isn't. There's no point of contact with the body other than at the wrist. So I'm going to give that a minute. Now, you've seen me when I glue them onto the base, I give it a few seconds, and then I use the extra thin. Because this is completely 100% load bearing in that wrist, that's the entire point of contact, the extra thin will dissolve that fat glue and it might lose grip. So I'm going to give this a little bit longer just so it stays on. I'm going to give it a second. I'll have a quick look at the chat. When he's on a base, of course, he's standing up like that, so I can put the extra thin on. It's not going to fall over. If I put extra thin on there now, it might just ping off. I'll give it a little longer. How did you get a Bane blade for $15? I think we need to know about this. Super fast thin, Fox inhales, Fox kill. I keep forgetting I've got that. Where is it? I keep forgetting it because I can't find it. Oh, it's there. I've got the fast setting Tamiya extra thin as well, which probably would work on that. But it still takes a few seconds. And it's not quite as... Even that takes longer to have enough grip to hold that in place than the fat stuff. Also, this stinks like nail varnish remover. It's got acetone in it. Whew. Are there any situations where the orange tube glue is actually useful? No. Don't ever use glue from a tube. Unless it's epoxy glue you're making a resin kit with. When it comes to plastic, no. Don't ever use tube glue. If you're gluing plastic stuff together, you really need a thin watery plastic where you can put the two pieces and then let the glue go in, suck it in. Or this stuff for when it's, you know, more heavy duty stuff. The stuff in a tube is just that, but you've got the mess of then putting some on a piece of card and using a pin. And the problem then is, A, you're putting stuff on with a pin. If you've got that if it's that small an area, use extra thin. Because this is great for little tiny areas where you can put them together first, touch it to it, and you've got no splodge. Thick glue is going to go everywhere. Wouldn't attaching the arm make it harder to paint? You would be surprised. That will not be hard to paint at all because I can get to everything. When you're building minis, you'd be surprised. When I first started building minis, I often thought to myself, I need to keep the arms off. I need to keep this off because of this, that, and the other. You don't. A lot of times, as long as you can get to everything with a brush, which on that it's perfect, easy to get to all of that. There's nothing there that is inaccessible. I can get into the inside of the coat because I can get a brush around there as I knock the camera. I can get around the inside and the back of the coat. I can get to the back of the hammer. I can see looking at that now. When you first started making minis, you start panicking about what can I get a brush onto? Do I have to do sub-assemblies? But once you've made a few and done a few figures, you realise there's a lot of stuff you can paint while it's assembled. So you get quite confident after a while. Like this dude here, you might think, how the hell am I going to paint the armour behind his plasma rifle? Quite easily, because I can get a brush down there. And you have to remember as well, these are tabletop miniatures. So there's two ways you can paint them. You can paint them for the tabletop, or you can paint them as, you know, cabinet queens or display quality, museum quality display jobs. I'm kind of in between tabletop and display level. If I was painting these to true display, like, you know, museum level, I would do sub-assemblies, but I'm not. I'm doing a bit between tabletop and display quality. So as long as I can get the brush in there, the golden rule is if you can't see it, don't worry about not being able to paint it. Oh, the camera. Oh, it's this thing. Oh, I've taken that off. You know, I can get underneath there to the guy's chainmail and stuff. It's also about painting order. Like if I want to paint his chainmail and now I can't paint it right at the end because I can't get a brush. If I try to get a brush up in there, I'm probably going to get paint on the back of his cloak. But if I paint the metal bit first, it doesn't matter then if I get anything on the cloak because I can paint over that. So you slowly learn paint order and you learn how to paint, how easy it can be to paint some things that look like they're not easy to get anywhere near. There are times when you will need to do sub-assemblies, but you have to balance it. Like for example, if I painted this hammer and hand with the arm off, then the moment I tried to glue it to the arm, that glue is going to make a right mess of the paint job on the hand. There's no way around it because that paints, even if I was careful with the glue, I need to get the glue up in the joint to really lock it in place. You see I'm doing it on the hand there. And you've got to consider that. If I build this as a sub-assembly, can I then assemble this without ruining the paint finish when I try and put the glue on? In that case, with this hand, no. It's easier to try and paint around the back, because all of that's perfectly accessible, than it is to try and glue that arm on without ruining the paint job. Tempesta Scions have a two-piece arm. A Tempesta Scion would have, for example, you would have that part of the arm would be one piece, and this part of the arm will be the other piece with the rifle. And you'd have to make them join up with the rifle and the cables. There is no way you could... I mean, ideally what you want to do is maybe paint the weapon arm and the weapon separately, because you've got to get behind them to paint the armour. But there's no way you could glue the arms on without ruining your paint job, because gluing the arms on is a pain in the backside. And it requires adjustments and messing around. It's not easy. So if you were to paint, say, a Tempesta Scion, and then try and glue the arms together, you'd just have to strip the paint job off and start again once you'd assembled it, because you'd have glue everywhere. So it's actually less often that you need to unassemble things. If you've got a figure where they've got, for example, let's say, you might occasionally get a figure where the half of the arm here and half of the arm here and the weapon are easily removed, and it fits perfectly, and you just have to put a tiny bit of glue and splop it on. It's not going to be a problem. That's when you can think to yourself, okay, I can take that off and not have it on there, because I'm confident that I can paint it and then glue it on without getting glue everywhere. But when it's something where you're going to have to put it on and adjust it and line it up and make sure other things line up with it, yeah, you don't want to be gluing that after you've painted it, because you'll ruin your paint job. And I think we're done. Look at that. We've just finished. And I've now finished all them poxwalkers, which means we have finished issue 63, which is our Death Guard reinforcements of more goddamn poxwalkers. And I'm not even sure we're finished with poxwalkers yet. And another Plague Marine. We've done all of them. So thank you guys. You've kept me inspired and kept me company through this arduous poxwalker building process to make 10 more. There we go. That is issue 63 completed. Everything was a bit dark. Has one of my lights gone off? I don't know. My camera angle's terrible. I think my camera's actually moved. It was supposed to be kind of more there. Never mind. Oh well. Apologies for the rubbish camera angle. That is all the Poxwalker, says Mordraka. Thank God for that. Only thing is I've got to paint them all now. Only 40 of them I've got to paint. We've got 40 of these dudes now. That's issue 63. Done. So I can go and destroy the sprue. Next one up is issue 65, which is some Space Marine heroes. We'll be carrying on with that next week. Issue 64 in the middle, I'm assuming, was an issue that came with a paint or something like that, because there's no instructions for it. But next week we will carry on with issue 65. That's going to do us though. Thank you very much for watching. I do love it when you watch my nonsense. I will be back, of course, tomorrow on the E-Model show with Chris and Ted. Colin, I don't think will be with us tomorrow on E-Models because he's not very well at the moment. So take care of yourself, Colin. Rest up, buddy. We'll see you soon. Yes, it'll be me, Chris, and Ted tomorrow night. I will be hoping to try and get some more of the Falcon build done this week. We'll see what happens after the tooth pulley out on Tuesday. But I've got to start filming the next episode, which is starting of the painting process. Hopefully once that starts, it won't take too many more episodes, and then we can get on with Tabletop Trauma Centre. Yes. What else? I will hopefully be doing a Fallout Friday this week. Now the computer's not overheating every 5 minutes. Hopefully we'll get a Fallout Friday. I might. I don't guarantee me on this. If I feel frisky later on, I might even think about doing a live stream after Chris has finished his. A bit of Fallout 4 playing. Maybe. I don't know yet. It's going to be late. It's going to be like 9:30 at night. So maybe not. I might do though. But if not, I might try and do one during the week. If you missed it, my Fallout Friday stream lasted 5 minutes and fell over, so I might try and get one in before Friday coming up. Don't forget, as always, then, if you would like to support this channel, first and foremost, make sure to like and subscribe and give the thumbs up. It helps this channel massively. If you want to help me directly, you can become a channel member by clicking on the little join icon that's underneath the video down here somewhere, just above the video description, the little join button. Or it's also on the channel homepage. Click on that on any of my videos, click on join, and you can get an exclusive member badge and some emojis. I will try and do more emojis for you. I know I've not got many of them, but I'll try and do some more. It takes a while, but I'll get some more done. Also, if you want to, you can become a patron at patreon.com/modelmakingguru. Again, my patrons and my members pay my bills. They keep the lights on, they keep the food on the table, so massive thank you to them.
But like I say, if you want to, you can just like and subscribe and help out that way. But don't forget, of course, to also, if you want to support this channel, help guarantee that I can keep making content. First and foremost, go to my sponsors and affiliates, emodels.co.uk and goblingaming.co.uk in the description below. All the links, lots of savings to be had on all your model making and tabletop needs. And also, I do have an Amazon store. Links again down below for the US. I've got Amazon stores for the US, UK, and now Canada. So if you need to buy stuff off Amazon, go and have a look on there before you do it through your own. That helps me out because that makes me a little bit of income at no expense to you. So make sure to use my Amazon store links. And if you need something that's not in my Amazon store, just give me a shout. I'll add it in seconds. Send me a link to the item. I will add it to you within moments. But that's going to do me. Thank you very much for watching. I shall join you at 5:15 in about 5 minutes for Dad's in-between show. So make sure to go to Scaling Models channel in about 5 minutes. And of course, Chris later on tonight is doing his Warhammer Sunday at 8 o'clock, I think. I've forgotten now. I think it's 8 o'clock. I've got confused because Ted starts is at 9. Yeah, 8 o'clock on Chris's channel. But yes, take care of yourselves. Go make some. I'll just make sure my buttons still work. Hang on. Yeah, they work. Take care of yourselves. Go make something awesome. Go be awesome. Although you already are. You know you are. Be awesome. And until next time, I shall say thank you very much. Take care. Wash your damn hands. Wear a damn mask. Well, no excuses now. Just put your damn mask on and wash some damn hands. Just do it. Don't argue. And I shall say, take care of yourselves. Adios, amigos.